Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the September 26th, 2017 school board meeting. Do I have a motion to open the meeting? Second?
Second.
Muriel? Or Commissioner Berkeley? Second by Commissioner Cooper. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Meeting is officially opened. What we're going to do is we're going to stand for the presentation of colors, and then we're actually going to have our young people from the Baltimore International Academy lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance in 6 different languages. Just to give you a flavor of how smart our students are from the Baltimore International Academy. They're going to start us in English, and then we're going to have Spanish, followed by Chinese, Arabic, Russian, and French. So with that, can we please rise for the presentation of colors? Permission granted.
Thank you, ma'am. Colors reverse. Heart. Color guard. Halt. Freeze and arms.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la República que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. Wafashe, Shadonye, Mewowoshi, Shadonye, Shadonye, Shada, Meche Shonda, Sheshenda, Shuyo Wojanira, Wo, Eta Ahed, بالولاء لعلم الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية والجمهورية التي يمثلها أمة واحدة برعاية الله تحت شعار الحرية والعدالة للجميع. Bien legislado, Sentinore Stata Americhe, I Respublike, Católicos y Variceres, Agnorilasi, Basashite Boga, Minerimar, Sasaboga y Sobotasia. Je déclare fidélité au drapeau des États-Unis d'Amérique et à la République qui représente une nation sous Dieu, indivisible, avec liberté et justice pour tous.
Merci beaucoup. Order. Arms. Colors post.
So I don't know about you, but that's really cool. I mean, you hear so many times that, kids in the United States can't speak multiple languages. Well, there you have it. Thank you very much. So I just want to recognize first I want to recognize the students from Baltimore International Academy for leading us in 6 languages. The Spanish Immersion Grade 8, Anya Lee, Shannon Towns, Rabia Votman. Arabic Immersion Grade 3, Simone Bryant, Layla Abdi, Gracie Cox, Elijah Ketzner, Brooklyn Mural, Jawone Holt, Saeed Evans, Chloe Christian, Madison Easley, and Samaria Hayes. Chinese Immersion Grade 8, Gabrielle Mann, Alexander Gasfield, Janya Brown. Russian Immersion Grade 8, Abigail Bobbitt, Sydney Renshaw. And French Immersion Grade 8, Kareem Drago, Averill Carter, Ariana Hawthorne Cox, and Abigail Heil. Let's give them another hand. Our students from Poly, JROTC, Ronnie Huggins, Naz Henderson, Alexis Gray, Janae Gaston Crevel, and Adjoa Amadi. And our student performers from Western High School Band, Ashley Albritton, Destiny Johnson, Mia Carter, Kennedy Cook, Brianna Jarman, Janae Cabbagestock, Araya Banks, Monia Ledbetter, Kendall Medlin, Trinity Meggett Johnson, Keelan Smith Mitchell, Skylar Ross, Jasmine Roundtree, Kayla Thomas, Aaron Taylor, Chamia Winston, and Lakeisha Maddox. Thanks to all of our students who led us in our opening ceremony tonight. I'm trying to find my paperwork here. Yeah. I'd now like to ask Commissioner Hassan if she would lead us in recognizing some of our staff and students who have passed.
We would like to take the time to recognize the passing of 2 of our city school students. Keith English was an 11-year-old 5th grade student at William S. Baer School. He was in the home and hospital program for multiple years before he passed. Keith loved stories read aloud to him. He would vocalize and chuckle in response to the story being read. He got very excited when given his iPad or his tablet, and when asked to respond by looking at choices for games or music, he would eye gaze at the symbol for music and then start laughing as if he was being tickled. He also showed if he didn't want to do something by faking his cough and making faces. Keith will be remembered with his happy nature, his smiles, and laughter will linger forever in our hearts. Jason Cooper was a rising 5th grader at Guilford Elementary Middle School. He was very energetic and a respectful young man. Miss Johnson, a teacher at the school, shared, "I had the pleasure of meeting and testing Jason when he was in Miss Irving's 2nd grade class. His text reading level was the highest of all the 2nd graders." During the 2015-16 school year, the same teacher had the honor of being Jason's language arts and social studies teacher. She shared that Jason was very eager to learn and participate in any activity. He enjoyed exploring books and loved to read. He would hesitate to say if he wasn't feeling well because he loved to come to school. Jason had a good, fun-loving spirit. He was a superhero that believed cancer could not beat him. He and his mother will forever be admired, respected, and loved. Jason will be missed by the entire Guilford school community. We would also like to take time to recognize the passing of one of City Schools' employees. This individual was committed to supporting our students. Through his work, he will be remembered fondly by the greater City Schools community. Tonight, we send our deepest condolences to his friends and family. It is with this great sadness that we announce the passing of Christopher Mules, who served with the Southwest Baltimore Charter School community. During Mr. Mules' 3-year tenure, he was able to connect with many students and colleagues through his innovative classroom and teaching techniques. From all of his interactions with students and parents, he will be remembered for his passion and his patience. Mr. Mules passed unexpectedly on 8/14/17 and will be gravely missed by his family, friends, and the entire City Schools community. If we could have a moment of silence on behalf of these individuals, please. Thank you.
I'd like to have a motion to approve our prior open session minutes and closed session summaries.
So moved.
Commissioner Hassan moved. Do I have a second? Commissioner Bondimas, second. All in favor, say aye. Aye? Okay, thank you. You good? You were late to aye. Okay, got it. We're now going to have reports from the three standing committees. We'll start with the Operations Committee, which met on September 19th. One of the items we discussed is also going to be discussed a little bit later this evening. We reviewed the feasibility study for the one of the Year 2 21st Century Schools, which is the renovation, rebuilding of Walter P. Carter in co-location with Lois T. Murray. Like I said, there's no reason for us to say too much right now because we are going to talk about this later. I did want to note, though, and we may hear some about this later, that we questioned the 21st Century team about choosing the option where we lose the pool and the rec center. But what we learned in that conversation that we had not known before is that the pool is actually structurally unsound and that it's currently open very few weeks a year, and we're spending a lot of money to continue to have to fill the pool because the pool leaks. So it was a little bit more complicated than we had first learned when this came up. And there were also some structural issues with the rec center. But again, we'll talk about that a little bit more later. We talked about we reviewed the very first draft of the budget development calendar, and we anticipate that the budget process this year, and we hope this is true, will be less dramatic than it was last year. And with that, we're going to be able to, we hope, move things up about a month in the process and still have a lot of time for community forum, board forum, and input from the public. We got a transportation update, and the largest growth of students needing transportation was for our curb-to-curb service. There's been a growth of 434 students between 2015 and 2017, and these are children that are homeless, special ed, ESOL. There's reasons why we provide that transportation, but it's also a more expensive transportation. So we dug into that a little bit. We also learned that two things: that how intense this beginning of the year is for everybody. But we were meeting on last Tuesday, and so we were about 2.5 weeks into the school year, and our transportation department had already received 900 additional requests for transportation additions and changes. So it's usually a little rough getting started. And their exact words around the rollout of Baltimore Link was that it wasn't a meltdown, which I thought was an interesting standard. We were happy that it wasn't a meltdown, but they also added that some of the issues that we've always had, length of ride and number of transfers, still remain concerns. But the city schools staff was very appreciative of all the outreach that MTA had done, as well as a number of our partners. I think CIP's on a presentation tonight, right? So we talked about the CIP, but I won't say any more about that because that's also on a presentation. So that's it from operations. Our next meeting is on October 17th at 10 o'clock in this room. Policy?
So at the policy meeting that occurred last Tuesday, we discussed policy JFA, which is the residency, non-residency, and tuition policy. This policy has been updated, or is being updated, to ensure that Baltimore City school students are the priority, Baltimore City residents, but that administrators are clear on an equitable policy for enrolling students out of district. Would like to also really highlight here that the school that this impacts the most is the Baltimore School for the Arts, and they have done an increasingly better job year after year to ensure that the seats at the Baltimore School for the Arts are occupied as much as possible by students who are from Baltimore City. So that was that discussion, fairly straightforward policy. The second policy we discussed was policy FFA, which is the naming and renaming of a school facility, as we have a number of schools that we're building, making sure that that process is very clearly articulated for people. Currently in the draft that is going now, the policy is that the principal and the school community reach out to the school district to confirm that there's no legal reason they can't change their name or historical reason they can't change their name. Once that is secured, then the community itself is allowed to develop that name and put forward a proposal to the district. And both of those will be up for first reader, I believe, sometime in the near future. And then our next meeting will be October 17th from 3:30 to 5:30 in this room. We have opened up the policy meetings to public comment, so if anyone is interested in weighing in, we'll be talking about the funding model review, student records, and the charter building lease policy. You may sign up for public comment by calling or emailing the board office anytime between the Thursday before the public meeting and Monday at the close of business so that would be October 16th. So we welcome any public comment, welcome student groups that have input on any of these policies, and look forward to seeing people here on the 17th. Thank you.
Fantastic, thanks. Teaching and learning?
Great. Teaching and Learning Committee met this morning at 9 a.m. and the first presentation was around gifted advanced learning. And I have to say, I'm entering my 5th year as a school board member, and in our Teaching and Learning Committee meetings, when I began, we asked the question, what's happened to gifted and how can we think about growing that? And there's been a dedicated staff here that it's really taken a thoughtful, led by Dennis Jutras, and I see Laura here as well, Laura Ohanian, a thoughtful and deliberate approach to how do we grow our gifted and advanced learning because we have exceptional students all across the city. We talked about how they've gone and expanded. Now they're at over 50 gifted and learning sites across the city. When Dr. Santelises and the system is thinking about equity, there's been a real equity focus here of pushing advanced learning sites across the city, and it's been very impressive of what's been able to be accomplished in a very short amount of time, with a goal of all schools becoming GAL sites, every school in the city, and we've gone from 8 to 50 very quickly. Starting fall 2017, we have universal. We're not going to know if we have through our normal methods. Do we have advanced students? And so we now, as a system, are able to universally screen all of our kindergartners and second graders, which is so we can identify those students for gifted, and we are logging them into Infinite Campus, and then the schools are tasked with servicing them. So it's actually another big, bold step that we took. Just because a GAL site is not in your building, that you have exceptional students there, how are you servicing them? And schools are having those conversations. Another really big thing we did to do that expansion is retool some Title I dollars to help kind of service those students, which has been a really smart approach. And we talked a bit about the curriculum, what curriculum students are getting. And right now, what's going to be embarked upon in the coming year is an audit of secondary programming, including thinking about our honors coursework and our AP expectations to ensure that we are preparing students for honors and AP, and how are we doing that, and making sure we think about expanding our offerings of honors coursework and APs and things like IB to more students across the city. So I just think it is a moment to just step back and say, hey, we've made a lot of progress here. And it's a very small staff doing incredible work. So that was a big focus of the conversation on a gifted advanced learning. There's a full presentation on board docs. I'd encourage you to look at it. The second was around our master plan and how we're aligning the master plan to the system's blueprint for success. And we're going to get a brief presentation about that today, so I won't go in that any longer. And then lastly, we did have there's a little committee structure change at the Teaching and Learning. Commissioner Linda Chinia will be the chair of the committee, and myself, Tina Hike Hubbard, and Muriel Berkeley will continue to serve on the Teaching and Learning Committee moving forward. So that's our report.
Great, thanks. The only thing I'd like to address in my comments is the board resolution for designating the Baltimore City Public School System as an inclusive, safe, and welcoming districts for all students, regardless of immigration status, religion, or country of origin. This is something we discussed, had a brief presentation on at our September 12th meeting. It was open for public comment. I'd like to, before we take a motion to approve the resolution, I'd like to ask board members one final time if they have any comments, questions, or if there's anything they'd like to say about this resolution. Okay, hearing none, and this is posted on board docs. Can I have a motion to accept this resolution? Commissioner Canham moves it. Second? Second by Commissioner Berkeley. All in favor? Commissioners Berkeley, Hassan, Canham, Kashani, Cooper, Frank, Bondima. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. We have, unfortunately, no gifts and donations to report tonight. So what I'd like to do now is ask for a motion of approval on personnel, quasi-judicial matters, and do I include the contracts in this, or do I wait for the?
No, ma'am, those will be taken as part of the.
Okay, then. Can I have a motion to approve the PEP agenda and the quasi-judicial matters, the appeals and hearings? Moved by Commissioner Berkeley, second by Commissioner Bondima. All in favor? Commissioners Berkeley, Hassan, Canham, Kashani, Cooper, Frank, and Bondima. Motion passes 7-0. So I now turn to Dr. Santelises.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Kashani. It is good to see everyone. At our last board meeting, we had Annie Milley attend from Live Baltimore, and she told us about the great work that they are doing to increase residency in our city, to create diverse and vibrant communities, healthier neighborhoods. And for those who were here, she also presented a great video on Medfield Heights Elementary School. Prior to that, I and a number of staff and community leaders were invited to an event where we had a chance to preview all of the videos from this year. And so what I would like to do as part of my comments is to be able to show another Live Baltimore video about one of our great schools, Hamilton Elementary Middle. Is there anyone from Hamilton Elementary Middle here this evening? Oh, one. Yay.
It's also one of the greenest schools in the city.
One of the greenest schools in the city. So they're not, okay. You did. So without further ado, I'd like to present this video about Hamilton Elementary Middle.
All right, come have a seat. Talk about what we did yesterday. Environmental ed, we tried to connect students with learning opportunities in our outdoor spaces. And we have this 20-foot wide, 100-foot long, unbelievably lush garden in Baltimore City. So where's your skeleton? Yeah, you can feel it, like your elbow, your shoulder.
Hamilton is a green school, and we want to give all of our children an experience of learning outside of the school building.
Our youngest students are learning the very basics of growing plants and how to take care of plants. And then our 5th and 6th graders are right now learning about solar energy, and then our middle schoolers are learning about nutrition. Kids are very rarely, particularly urban kids, very rarely outside by themselves exploring a natural space. And so one of the things that I really like about our program is that it's giving kids that chance.
Our children see things that they've never seen before, bugs that they've never seen, plants that they've never seen. They see things that they really want to know more about, and there's a world out there for them to discover.
So, one of your specimens will be alive. It'll probably be moving. It might be big, it might be small. It is in a container from which it cannot escape. The number of possible careers in environmental ed related areas are many, and I think it could be a program that spawns an interest in that area now and will continue for the rest of their lives.
Female praying mantis eats male praying mantis.
We partner with the local businesses, we talk to our neighbors, so the school really becomes central in developing and supporting a healthy neighborhood.
We have a monarch butterfly.
Hamilton is the quiet gem in the middle of a big city, and children will be put into a place where they can be inspired to do great things in life.
Great, and that's just a wonderful example of what engaged learning looks like for young people, and the fact that this wonderful example is one of our very own, I think just is testament to the fact that, one, we are building great schools in Baltimore City, but we also have a number of great schools already in Baltimore City. And so I just want to thank and give congratulations to Principal Ottaway Drummond, and thanks to Live Baltimore for that video and for everything they do for our city and city schools. It is now my pleasure, and you got a chance to see a little bit earlier, for those of you who were here for the Pledge of Allegiance, we had probably the most engaging Pledge of Allegiance that we have had in a long time from our young people and students from Baltimore International Academy. And right now it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Kona Fasia Nipe, who is the Executive Director and founder of Baltimore International Academy, and the newly appointed principal, Elena Cunha, who will come forward and talk to us about the Language Immersion International Baccalaureate program at Baltimore International Academy and show us a remarkable video about the program. I think one of the things as they come to the table, and I'm going to invite them up, if they're here. They're here. Oh, they're there. I'm going to invite them up. One of the things when I had a chance, you can come sit right here while we play the video. You don't want to sit here? Oh, great, the kids have it. I love it even more. So I do want to say this before the kids take it the way that they should, that this is just really kind of consistent practice from these two leaders. These are leaders who started with a vision for immersion in Baltimore City when many were telling them that you can't do language immersion in Baltimore City. They did it with Baltimore International Academy. They have young people who are being certified internationally in their languages at the level, frankly, that many people who are studying to be diplomats reach those same levels. What I think is particularly interesting is they also upped the ante themselves. They didn't wait. And one of the things that they did is they also piloted and began a late immersion program. Most people didn't think that they'd be able to do early immersion in Baltimore City, and they proved that young people in our city are never too old to learn, and have a very successful late immersion program that frankly is the envy of many across the state. So without further ado, I will turn it over to the Baltimore International Academy young people.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, and Dr. Santalese. My name is Gabrielle Mann, and I'm an 8th grade student at Baltimore International Academy, and I'm currently enrolled in the Chinese immersion. 11 years ago, in 2006, our founders were invited to speak at the board meeting just like this one. They were here to defend BIA's charter application. Board members had many questions, and understandably so. They wondered whether the immersion method would work. How could kids from Baltimore City be taking 4 to 5 different languages that no one in their house speaks, and from people from around the world? It didn't occur to them, apparently. The founders knew that this would work because immersion is grounded in research and has a proven track record of success in other places. Today, we are here at the invitation of the CEO, who understands the importance of global education and wants us to share our success practices. Thank you, Madam CEO, for validating the efforts that BIA is making to keep its promise to prepare us, the future global leaders. It is a philosophy at BIA that every child can learn at high levels when given proper support and the right conditions in a nourishing environment. BIA believes in being all things to all children. The school has endeavored to achieve its mission by offering programs that consider the needs of the individual child. Towards this end, BIA provides vigorous programs for its students. Some of these are immersion in a choice of 5 target languages: Spanish, Chinese, Arabic, Russian, and French. A second language that is introduced in the 6th grade. The International Baccalaureate's primary years and middle years programs. Extended learning opportunities, ELO, for 2nd to 8th grade students who need extra support in English or math after school. Saturday Emerging Readers Academy for 1st and 2nd grades. Positive Behavior Intervention Support, PBIS. E-Gate, Gifted and Talented Education. And 80% of BIA's 8th grade students are accepted into Baltimore's top public and private schools. And also, most of the middle school students go on trips internationally with our school. Depending on what language you speak, you might go to that country by the time you're in the 7th or 8th grade. We were told that the CEO wanted us to share why our school is so successful. So my friends here will be telling you why they think the school is so successful.
Hola, me llamo Rabia Votman. Yo fui aprendiendo en esta escuela por 9 años. Yo pienso que esta escuela es exitosa porque nosotros aprendemos en todos los lenguajes, pero aprendemos la misma cosa que los otros escuelas de Baltimore, pero aprendemos en nuestro lenguaje. Hi, my name is Rabia Votman. I've been attending Baltimore International Academy for 9 years. I believe that Baltimore International Academy is a successful school because not only do we learn the same things that most Baltimore City schools learn, but we learn it in our language, and also IB, that's a very important part of our language.
晚上好，我叫 Janai， 我是 Baltimore 国际学校8年级中文班的学生。我觉得 Baltimore 国际学校是一个很成功的学校，因为他们不仅帮助我们准备去高中学习，还帮助我们在工作的时候。Hello, good afternoon. My name is Janai Brown. I am an 8th grader at Baltimore International Academy. I believe Baltimore International Academy is a successful school, not only because it prepares us for the high school curriculum, but also because it prepares us for the workspace and the attitudes that we should have.
مرحبا، أنا اسمي ليلى. أنا 9 سنوات. أنا في صف الثالث عربي. أنا أحب المدرسة. أتكلم اللغة العربية وأتعرف الثقافة العربية. Hi, my name is Layla. I'm 9 years old. I'm in 3rd grade Arabic immersion. I like my school because we speak Arabic and we learn the cultures of our teachers.
Добрый вечер, меня зовут Abigail Bobbitt. Я учимся 8 класса русского программы. Я учусь в Балтиморской интернациональной академии. В этой школе я учусь все предметы в русском языке. Я учусь математика, наука, география и история. Good afternoon. Good evening. My name is Abigail Bobbitt. I'm in the 8th grade Russian immersion program. I attend Baltimore International Academy. At this school, I learn all of my subjects in Russian language. I learn math, science, history, and geography.
Bonjour tout le monde, je m'appelle Ariana. BIA est une école de succès parce qu'elle nous prépare d'examens en français, comme le DELF et le Grand Concours. Je suis un membre de la Société honoraire de français. Le DELF nous permet d'être dans une école en France sans faire les tests en langue. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ariana Hawthorne Cox. I am in the 8th grade French immersion program. BIA is a successful school because it prepares us for a lot of things in life. I am a member of the French Honor Society, and DELF would have really helped me get into a French school without taking a test that other students would have to take. And now to showcase our uniqueness and how unique our school is and how student-centered it is, we'd like everyone to enjoy the video of one of our students, being immersed in the language that they are learning. Thank you.
Cuadrado, aquí y aquí. Todos son cuadrados y miran como un rectángulo, pero son cuadrados. Y aquí dice número B. Construir un rectángulo con 2 columnas de 3 filas. Ok, hay 2 columnas de 3. 1, 2, 3. Y hay aquí los cuadrados. Y esto es el grande cuadrado como eso. Aquí dice que es un rectángulo, pero es como un rectángulo de este lado.
Muy bien.
Très, très bon, mes enfants. C'est bon travail. Bon travail. Ah oui, ça c'est bon.
Okay, Dr. Santelises, now say that in Arabic.
I only have one. I'm going to milk it for what it's worth.
We have some questions. Actually, if the young people could stay, there may be some questions, ladies. If you could, come back. I could say, mi scusi? That's Italian.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing with us. I've never been to an immersion school. Can you tell me what your day looks like? And if you're saying you're an immersion in Chinese or Mandarin, is that the only language you studied the entire time? Have you been exposed to other languages? If you could just tell me what your day looks like, I'd really appreciate it.
Good afternoon. It's basically how any other Baltimore City school would be. Basically, you take every class for every hour, but we have it in a different language. So we take math in Spanish, we take science in Spanish, we take biology. It goes on like that. We are also exposed, once we reach middle school, you get to choose a language to speak. Me and Ariana, we take Chinese. I think it is the last hour of school. we take Chinese for an hour, and like we have basically as you go to middle school, like that would be our third language.
So you determined, like from kindergarten, first grade, Spanish was going to be your track, and you took that the entire way through.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you have other choices? When you entered the school, other choices? What were your choices when you got all languages were offered in kindergarten?
Actually, the only languages that were offered was the main languages now, which is Spanish, Chinese, Russian, and French. But a few years ago, we had added Arabic to our program to expand the languages. Now we have up to third grade Arabic, but we're going to get to eighth grade soon.
No, you can answer. You just want to hear you.
To clarify your question, it's a parent's choice. So we have 5 target languages, 5 language immersion programs in one building. And once the parent chooses the language, the child will follow this language immersion program, kindergarten through 8th grade.
I have a question. Do you have any? I'm sort of fascinated by this. Do you have exchanges with other schools, like are other districts that do this? Do you have a chance to talk to other students? Because there must be. I don't know. I don't even know how to ask the question.
We go and we enter in a lot of competitions. So depending on what you do, I know me and Janiyah, we're both in the same class. We're in Janiyah and I apologize,
Nice.
are in Chinese, 8th grade Chinese. So for basically the entire time we've been there, we've been entered in competitions. So we sing, dance, do whatever in Chinese languages, and we compete with people all over the country, or sometimes they even come from other places. So if you get to a high enough round, you can go to DC. And you compete with people there that make to their top rounds. And once you get to middle school, you're able to actually compete in China with people that are in China and possibly win your prize.
Wow. Any other questions?
Merci, ma chérie. To add to that, we do have a school sister in China. As well, we give opportunity to the students to Skype with students in Spain, in China. We've done that with Russia and France as well. And we do have our exchange program with France, one of the school in France. And in fact, we bring interns and exchange teachers, and their mission to promote culture and language. As of right now, we do have intern from Spain, is he here, Julian? Here, Julian. He's from Spain. And we have intern from France. We do have 2 Hamban teachers from China. As well, for the first time, we do have Arabic exchange teacher from Egypt.
Nice. Yeah, that's fantastic. Wow. It's really overwhelming. I mean, I was on the Charter Advisory Board when we voted to accept this, and it's just amazing, because it did seem so like out there when we first approved it, like so hard to imagine it, spreading so much. So congratulations on really making the school such a success. Congratulations, ladies. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Unbelievable.
And again, I would just like to thank Dr. Nipe and Principal Lacuna just for their vision, their dedication, and their commitment to equity. When you sit and are able to have a conversation with them, they enter from the frame that it is possible. They actually question the questions about what young people are able to do. So I just want to thank you all for living out the kind of high-quality, world-impacting experiences that all of our young people can have. And I want to say thank you to the families and to the young people of Baltimore International Academy just for your commitment to international leadership as well as leadership at home. So thank you very much. Yes. And then finally, Madam Chair, I would like to invite Jeremy Grant Skinner forward for tonight's PEP agenda.
Good evening, Commissioners. Dr. Santelises. Thank you for your approval earlier of 2 appointments.
Jeremy, if you could hold just for 1 second.
Sure.
We have a bit of an exodus.
Not that they don't want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, no, they're really excited about what your presentation.
A tough act to follow, Jeremy.
Actually, can you make this presentation in French? No, I thought so. How about Arabic?
French, at least 2 of us at the table might understand.
I caught every 4th word in French.
They can fill a full kindergarten class.
Yeah.
Russia, they have 5 in. Wow. But they have enough demand to fill a kindergarten class.
Okay, I think we're good to go.
Good evening again. Thank you for your approval of 2 appointments this evening. First, Rashida Wilson, currently principal resident, will be appointed assistant principal at Furman Templeton Preparatory Academy, effective September 27th. And second, Robert Summers, currently educational associate at City Springs Elementary Middle School, is appointed assistant principal, City Springs Elementary Middle School, effective September 27th. And Thank you.
Thank you very much. And congratulations to both our new assistant principals and their principals. And without further ado, I will turn it back to Commissioner Kashani.
Great, thanks. What I'd like to do now is we're going to go item by item on the consent agenda, and board members can indicate if they'd like to have the item pulled, and if you could also say at the time what your questions are about the item so that the staff can have time to get answers for your questions, and then we'll come back to it later in the meeting. First item is item 8.01, the feasibility study for Walter P. Carter / Lois T. Murray Elementary Middle School. Would anybody like to pull that item?
Please, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Hassan wants to pull. Could you just say a few words about what you'd like to discuss?
I'd like to discuss the general practice of co-location, as well as the need for looking at every move we make in the district from an equity lens.
Okay, so we'll pull 8.01. Item 8.02, the quarterly budget amendment. That'll go by consent. Item 8.03, Local 44 contract extension. Item 8.04, PSRP contract extension. Item 8.05, FOP contract extension. Item 8.06, CUB contract extension. Item 8.07, Pizzazza contract extension. So from Section 8, the only item that we'll pull will be 8.01. Under procurement items, same idea, raise your questions if you'd like to pull it. Item 9.01, community schools. That'll go by consent. Item 10.01, college and career readiness, extended learning services.
I want to pull that one.
You want to say a few words about why?
Yeah, they're grouped, there's several programs, 3 different programs grouped together, and just wanting to rationale, understanding why we're grouping the programs. We talked a little bit about this in teaching and learning, and just wanting more the evidence of effectiveness per each program, rather than just talking about the vetting program, the overall vetting, which is part of the evidence of effectiveness. So that's what we want to talk about.
Okay. Item 10.02, Apex Learning. Item 11.01, AirTech Refrigeration and Mechanical Contractors. Item 12.01, Verizon Telephone Services.
I don't want to pull that, but can I just make a quick comment?
Absolutely.
So I just one of the things that we had asked for in the Operations Committee meeting was an overall communication strategy plan, and just to let the public know that we're really excited to see that we're going to get a plan from them in the future that shows all of the communication services, whether it's messaging or websites and telephones, to see how it all intersects together, so that that'll be a complete picture. So that's one of the reasons we're so comfortable moving forward with this now.
Also known as a cheat sheet. We really couldn't keep track of how everything is related, and so a schematic we thought would help. Item 13.01, School Health Corporation. Item 13.02, ALEC LLC, Retro Environmental, Inc., BMW Construction Specialist, Inc. Item 13.03, School Bus Transportation. Item 13.04, Commercial Cabling and Sound, Inc., and Denver Elec, Inc. Item 14.01, Care First. Item 14.02, Care First for the point of service option. Item 14.02, Care First for the preferred provider network option. 14.03, Kaiser Foundation Health Plan of the Mid-Atlantic. Item 17.01, Culture and Climate Extended Learning Services.
Oh, sorry. 1701, yep, I want to pull that one.
Can you say why?
Yes, I asked for clarification in teaching and learning, and I received it and don't understand the clarification. So I want to just ask follow-up questions on what specifically, it's continuous growth. What is that program? What are we doing in schools with continuous growth? That wasn't clear.
So from the consent agenda, we're going to pull 8.01, 10.01, and 17.01. So we'll have public comment, and then based on public comment, we'll decide if there's any other items people want to pull. Commissioner Frank?
Madam Chair, this is an idea that you talked about in the Operations Committee, and it might be an opportunity to do so tonight, which is that once a vendor is selected, that we can think about creatively how those vendors can support the mission of the school district. It might be mentoring in schools. It might be access to auto mechanics. There's innumerable ways that the businesses and entities with which we do business can find collateral ways to be supportive of the schools and the mission.
Thanks, Commissioner Frank. And this is we're going to be like a steady drumbeat on this. We're spending millions of dollars for people to do stuff for the schools that tend to be transactional, mechanical, a lot of facility stuff. And so, you know, we want to try to connect all parts of the house back to the educational mission. So thank you for raising that. And you'll get tired. You might get tired of hearing this. So we look forward to the day when we start to have some examples of what they're doing. Great. And as luck would have it, it is exactly 6 o'clock, which is where we're supposed to be. Yeah, lucky twice in a row. So, in our public comment, are there any special recognitions tonight? No special recognitions? Okay. We'd like to invite our first special guest, Trish Garcia-Pilla from PCAB.
Hi, good evening. Just very quickly, I wanted to remind everyone that our first public meeting is this Thursday, 6:30 to 8:30 in this room. I have invited Clarence Parker back and have also reached out to student organizations to please attend our meeting so that they can give feedback on policies JBA and JBB, which is what you all requested from him at the last meeting regarding these policies, that there wasn't student feedback. So I've invited him back and have invited students.
Thanks for that.
And then we will also have our first presentation on the new student records policy. There will be a initial presentation, so hopefully students can also give feedback on that as well. That is this Thursday, the 28th, right here at 6:30. So I hope any students listening or parents listening that want their kids to be involved in feedback on those policies, please bring them on over so that they can give feedback on them. And also wanted to let you all know, again, October 12th, our meeting will be going to the Kerwin Commission hearing, which I don't know how many people have heard, has changed to 5 p.m. at Poly. We will be working with the BEC to just be part, kind of glom on to what they've already organized, because we work with them anyway, and it just will make it easier for all of us to be one cohesive group and be a good presentation. So that's our plan. If anybody wants to join PCAB, you can get in touch with us at pcab@bcps. Oh my goodness, K12MD US. Thank you. Have a good
Trish,
night.
any questions? Great, we'll see you on the 12th.
Great.
Actually, we'll see you on the 10th, too. Our second guest is Deborah Demery from the PTA Council of Baltimore City.
So good evening, everyone. On behalf of the PTA Council of Baltimore City. Founded in 1897, PTA is still the oldest and largest child advocacy organization in the nation. What sets us apart from other organized groups is our mission, and that mission is to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate on behalf of their students, of all students. So we're delighted now that the district is focusing on a well-rounded student. But what happens to those students once they leave the buildings and go home? I've attended a number of back-to-school nights the past weeks, and some of our kids go home to very angry adults with their own issues which stand in the way of them providing much-needed support at home. So we must all do a better job of establishing and maintaining a trusting relationship with those parents and not just label them as trouble. So our students deserve better. Teacher Appreciation Week, I'm going to switch gears. Teacher Appreciation Week is observed in May, but we feel it should be every day, every month. Not to only recognize our teachers, but our principals and our staff. So we would like to recognize principals and staff who stay true to the values of PTA, which are collaboration, commitment, diversity, respect, and accountability. This month, we recognize Principal Chantel Douglas and the amazing teachers and staff at Woodhome Academy, home of the Wildcats. We also recognize their PTA president, Mr. Frank Collins, and treasurer, Ms. Carolyn Combs, for a job well done. We are also working with BEC, and we will be attending the Kerwin Commission and offering testimony on October the 12th. Thank you.
Fantastic. I like the coordinated strategy. Good job. Our next guest is Mr. Neil Ross from the BTU.
Good evening, Madam President, CEO, and distinguished board members. Hi, my name is Neil Ross. I work with the Baltimore Teachers Union. Now, the good news is I really have no official report, but I would like to comment on the 3 schools that were mentioned today. I visit, they're all my assigned schools, and each one is uniquely different. When BIA first came to my attention, I said, "Are you crazy?" And I knew better before tonight, but I thought it was way over the top. Dr. Drummond works extremely well with her faculty and me, and we don't always get what we want, although we think we should, but she is a principal that works well with the Baltimore Teachers Union and her teachers, which is really more important, and her paraprofessionals and school-related personnel. And then Woodhome Elementary Middle is one of those schools on the fringe of the city. And it's always been a work in progress. And it's always been a school that I always said, I could work here. And so I just thought I'd give a little shout out to the three schools because I know them very well. Thank you. Well,
Thank
we
you.
do have a conference coming up on October the 20th, which at the convention center, and I'm sure that President English wouldn't mind if I invited you. So if I hear otherwise, I'll give you a call.
Too late.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
You can't give me a mic even when I have no report, you know.
It's all good. Thank you. So now we'll turn to general public comment. First up is Ms. Sheila Billups from CCAC.
Good evening,
Good
Dr.
evening.
Santalese and the board members. Baltimore City Special Education Citizen Advisory Committee, best known as Baltimore City CCAD, has planned a great and exciting year of a calendar of programming. We have planned sessions full of information and resources that are both beneficial and empowering. We have planned many engagement activities for the parents and the students with disabilities. We are excited even for the October 9th meeting, which will be our first mobile meeting of this year. We are busing the students and their parents and taking them to Lakeshore. We believe that they can really grow from this opportunity. It's all about literacy, math, and science and reading. And I'm closing with these words from Mrs. Helen Keller, who had many disabilities. Alone we can do so little. Together we can do so much. So I'm looking for many of you in this room to continue to support CCAD. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Billups. Next, we invite Myrna Newman. I don't know. We'll ask.
Good evening, City Board, school members.
Could you turn the green button, or hit the, there you go.
Thank you. Good evening, board members, official board members. Thank you for having me on this evening. I'm sharing this evening in regards to the Walter P. Carter Recreation School being remodeled and revamped. In regards to the rec center moving from 8,000 square feet to 3,000 square feet of shared space is not acceptable. The pool, not having a pool is not acceptable. The skyline, the possibility of having a 3-story building looming over neighbor's home, not acceptable. Willow Avenue loading zone extending a tight dead-end street to accommodate loading and trash pickup, not acceptable. Neighbors have already been damaged by the regular city trash trucks. Traffic, old community with tight streets, the 10 buses, that's already too many, 2 cars can't pass the streets at the same time. 6, the green space that we have was always beautiful, and even before the rec center and the school came there. It may also be unwise to accept a recommendation without seeing the school and the neighborhood around it. Okay?
Yes, does anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we invite Catherine Wyatt.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name's Catherine Wyatt, and I'm a great-grandmother from the 1950s. My boys and girls grew up in the neighborhood of Willow Avenue and Renwood Avenue, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Renwood Avenue playground and school near them where our children or their children will continue to play. Now, my boys had to walk about 3 or 4 miles to Clifton Park to play or to swim. And I'm appalled that you're planning a new building, school building, without consideration of the space needed for play. Our boys and girls need to grow physically as well as spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, and educationally. They need the space in order to continue their growth. And even though I live just a few miles from the school, I am concerned because I can't believe that after all of these years, we still don't have adequate space for play. There is a tot lot at the end of Renwood Avenue, which has a tot pool. The bigger children cannot swim there. So it has been inadequate for all of these years, and I would certainly hope you would readdress this area and space for our children. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I just want to let everybody know that we appreciate both Ms. Newman and Ms. Wyatt commenting. And when we do the presentations, we are going to have a conversation about Walter P. Carter. So we appreciate that you brought these forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll invite Donta Allen and Ivan Roberts. I'm sorry if I said that wrong.
How are you guys doing?
We're great.
I'm Dante. I'm here with Youth as Resources.
My name is Ivan. I'm with the Baltimore Algebra Project. My name is Ivan. I'm with the Baltimore Algebra Project.
So, Youth as Resources is a youth-led, grant-making, community organizing, and leadership development organization. We provide the grants, training, and support our peers' needs to develop projects that address our critical issues, making positive change in the community. So y'all also organizes groups from the ground up through our community organizing and workforce development strategy, Task Force. Task Force implies a team of some of the most experienced and skilled YAR youth board members year-round. YAR Task Force provides community organizing, project development, organizational development, leadership, grant writing, and many other trainings for our peers. Task Force members are also responsible for providing direct organizing around the board's issue priorities, including school police accountability.
BAP is a youth-led local organization that focuses on the betterment and advancement of students' advancement in education, also the benefits and injustices that youth faces. We focus on the National Students' Bill of Rights, that basically students have rights while they're in school and that cannot be denied.
So what we believe YAR and BAP and others have been working together to address issues around school police accountability. We believe that schools can only be improved with consistent youth voice and organizing.
What we know, Baltimore City students are arrested in school at a much higher rate than other cities in Maryland, and that some of these students targeted are faced with disabilities of some sorts, and that when these students are arrested, they are more likely to drop out and triple the dropout rate. And we're done.
So I take it from the agenda that you guys are piggybacking with the next group?
Yes.
That's fair. Okay, so thank you very much. I think after we hear that you'll see. There's going to be more comment on this same topic. So thanks, gentlemen, for getting us started. And now we invite Tori Grace and Danya Johnson. That was a slick way to do that.
Hi, I'm Tori.
Good evening, I'm Donye, and I'm with the Baltimore Algebra Project.
I'm with Youth is Resources. We basically added on to what they said, but I'm going to give highlights about our school police report card. And from June 2016 to December 2016, we facilitated discussions with over 300 of our peers and developed a user-friendly rating tool reflecting the issues. March 2017, the district administrated rating tool, our rating tool. Summer 2017, we facilitated focus groups with over 80 of our peers and got feedback around the issue of concern for the initial report card. Yeah.
We found out that the students understand what excessive force is, and they have a lot to say about incidents of force. Based on that, it was decided to include opportunities to report information about force in the next school police report card. Excuse me. And moving forward, YAR and BAP and others involved in this work plan to desegregate data. We plan to get trained ourselves to collect and analyze data. We also want to conduct focus groups, and we also want to translate results in a way that is meaningful to us and our peers. And we also want to present the results, and we're going to continue to make recommendations based on our organizing work. We're done. Does anybody have any questions?
I just have a comment. We're going to have, one of our discussion items tonight is some of the district personnel are going to present on some of the survey that you helped develop that they administered in the school. We're going to hear about some of the results. But I want to thank publicly Youth as Resources, Baltimore Algebra Project, Chief Ham, Teresa Jones, and just you guys are all model. It's not easy sometimes to all work together on these things, and sometimes it's a little messy. We've had fits and starts in having this information presented, but sometimes when things are hard and a little messy, it requires a little bit more time and a little bit more patience. So I appreciate the way you creatively used the public comment time tonight so that we could hear from both organizations, and hope that you'll still be here when the district presents. And I know that we on the board all look forward to working with you moving forward. And I can't see Chief Ham. There he is. It's just, and Julie, I know, is back there too. Julie, can you raise your hand? Who works closely with the young people, and Jamal, is Jamal here?
Yes, but he's not in here.
Okay. It just takes everybody working together and having a little patience with each other as we all try out new behaviors. So thanks to everybody, and thank you very much for coming forward. Yes,
Thank you.
Wait, one second.
I also want to thank both Baltimore Algebra Project, Youth as Resources. One of the things that I think you all have demonstrated has been, as young people, a willingness to accept feedback and a willingness to really pursue excellence in your research, to support the passion that you feel that is rightly directed towards making our schools places that young people have a voice. So I want to thank you for your reflection, your adjustment, your commitment to excellence, and look forward to us continuing to learn from one another.
Von Dima? Hold on, ladies. Hold on. This is what happens when you go second. You get to hang for the questions.
Yeah. I just want to say thank you. I am totally impressed with young people coming out, putting together a project. The whole project is a learning project. And just to put a focus group together and learn the positives and negatives, because you have to understand when you do a research project, sometimes, or many times, it might not work out the way you want, but that doesn't mean it's a failure, because you're always learning, you're always adding information, and you're moving forward with the information, so that doesn't mean that the project was a failure, or it could be a positive project. Anywhere you go, it's a learning project, and for you young people to put a focus group together, and then you say, I don't know if you said something about 300 students?
Yes.
That is, we can't do that in research. It's difficult to get 50 people together. So I think it's wonderful, and I want to commend you, and I think it's a wonderful thing to see the board working with you, Baltimore City Public Schools working with you. I am so proud of you. You are 50 steps ahead before you get to college. Graduate students, when they get to that point, they do the same thing, and it's a learning project. So I'm really, really impressed, and I want you to know that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hassan?
Just really quickly, ladies and the gentleman in the back as well, you're with Youth Resources and Project Eligible. What schools do you attend?
Western.
Some of us
Patterson?
attend Poly, City. I attend Green Street Academy, and what other schools is it? I think Baltimore.
All right, thank you. And Patterson.
Oh, and Dunbar.
Dunbar?
And Dunbar. Perfect, thanks.
Oh, and some
Sorry.
colleges.
A lot of different schools.
Yep.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Next, we invite forward, and I might get this name wrong, is it Sharika Bowden? Bowden? Bolton? I'm sorry. Oh, Bolden.
Yes.
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, my name is Sharika Bolden, and I co-chair the Baltimore Education Coalition, and I am accompanied by several BEC members tonight in the audience, including my co-chair, Frank Patinella. We are a coalition of over 20 organizations which work collaboratively to improve funding and policies for city schools. We are just under 10 years old, and we're gearing up for another year of advocating. So I want to just give you a quick overview of our plans for the coming year. You heard a little bit about it in some previous presentations, and invite you all to join in with us. The last time we were here, I believe, was at the end of the Fix the Gap campaign, and on behalf of the BEC, I want to thank you for your support and collaboration in that work. For the coming legislative season, we are prioritizing our focus on the Kirwan Commission to get good recommendations and a revamped, adequate formula in 2018. We see that there is no time to waste to ensure students and teachers receive what they need now. Not 10 years from now, not 5 years from now, now. We embrace our work with a sincere sense of urgency. So our priorities in the new formula are as follows. First, increased funding and staffing to meet the needs of students in concentrated poverty. Second, full-day pre-K for all 3- and 4-year-olds for low-income households. Third, after-school and summer school. Fourth, enrichment such as art, music, and sports. And finally, community schools. So here's what we have planned in the coming months. First, we have launched an effort already to organize over 50 presentations at back-to-school nights, PTO meetings, community meetings, etc., to spread the word about the Kirwan Commission and its work and its lasting impact for generations to come. We are organizing, as you've heard, for the October 12th hearing at Poly at 5 p.m. I believe there have been over 50 speakers that have signed up so far. We would like to invite you, the board, everyone here, everyone listening, to join the BEC there with us, to wear yellow. And it's critical that we have a strong turnout and show that we as a city will press unapologetically to move legislation in 2018. Finally, we'd like to invite you, the board, to our Unity event. We're looking at having that on November 29th at 6 p.m., location to be determined. That event will bring together the community and our elected officials to drive alignment ahead of the legislation session. So we look forward to working with you.
Sharika, if you can indulge me, and I was trying to take notes, could you just tick off the 5 priorities?
Sure.
You guys?
Increase funding and staffing to meet the needs of students in concentrated poverty. full-day pre-K for all 3- and 4-year-olds for low-income households. After school and summer school, that's third. Fourth is enrichments, and fifth is community schools.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Thank you, and we'll definitely see you on the 12th.
Thank you.
Next, we invite Keisha Goodwin. Hello.
Hello. Yes, thank you for listening to my testimonies, and if I appear to be accusatory, it is not intentional. I'm just passionate about my work and the work that's needed as a parent, educator, homeowner, and an advocate. I testified last time about the disproportion of African American teachers compared to non-African American teachers. And I was reading something from the Education Center for American Progress. They produced an article called America Needs More Teachers of Color and More Selective Teaching Professional Programs. This article emphasizes an increase in not just colored teachers, but in African American teachers to increase their academic achievement amongst African American students, to close the achievement gap especially. The primary reason for why African American students perform better is because they can relate and identify with African American teachers. I also noticed after looking through a snapshot of Baltimore City that suspension rates increased almost by 2,000 from 2015 to 2016. This closely correlates with the culture and climate concerns because of the enormous increase in non-African American hires. So I have to ask myself, who are writing these referrals? What is the race, age, and sex of the people writing these referrals? In the snapshots, I noticed for school profiles for effectiveness and achievements that there was not a demographic for the teachers. However, there is a demographic for tenured teachers, there's a demographic for students, but not for the race and ethnicity of teachers. Also, while reading the Snapchats, I didn't see any information on City High School or Poly. So I would like to have that information in the snapshot as well. I have noticed an increase in hiring of Johns Hopkins graduates or students, as well as Teach for America in the last 15 years, which has literally saturated the system in the last 10 years. Highly qualified teachers are also produced from HBCUs, especially if the same conversation that takes place with the pipeline programs takes place with HBCUs, such as Coppin, Morgan, Howard, Eastern Shore. Not only are they monopolizing schools, but they are monopolizing the district. I noticed that the man that was hired to hire teachers is affiliated with TFAs. I noticed that some of the board members are closely related to Johns Hopkins and also charter schools, and this correlates to what I see in local schools. And these are some of my concerns because I see I have run out of time.
Thank you, Keisha. Any questions on the issues that she raised? Thank you. We appreciate when you bring these to our attention. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we invite, I think it's Jimmy Mitchell.
As mentioned, my name is Jimmy Mitchell. I work for Park Heights Renaissance as the Community School Coordinator of Arlington Elementary Middle School. First, I would like to say thanks to the school board. I'm here in honor of Community School Coordinator Week. I would like to share a few school highlights from Arlington. Since becoming a community school in 2012, Arlington enrollment has increased by 70%. When Arlington became a community school, it had only 4 active partners. Now it has over 40 partners. Our partnerships support the school and the community in numerous and various ways. Academic support through after-school programming and tutoring. We are a partner with Johns Hopkins STEM Sabez to support academic and enrichment. Partners provide various health services. Last year, our partners provided 96 students with 2 pair of eyeglasses, physical exams, after-school meals were provided to 150 students. Arlington has supported City School Summer Youth Works program by employing this past summer 75 youth workers we had at the school. And this year's Summer Youth Works was a little bit different than the previous 5 years we've been a work site, in that we had several what I refer to as career tracks. French was taught for the month of July, and each career track was twice per week. That was Tuesdays and Thursdays. French was taught. We had exposure to various, again, this is Youth Works, various career paths, such as police came to visit the school to talk about various career opportunities with the police department, the fire department, Homeland Security, and finally, we had pilots that taught our aviation program. This exposed the workers to the qualification for ground school. Our parents, they have leadership roles within the school in terms of Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. Our parents also serve as teacher aides, and our community also benefits. The neighborhood, there are at least 2 neighborhood associations that meet in our community school space. Our community utilizes various programs, our food pantry. We offer also health fairs that is also open to the community. We partnership with Baltimore Housing. The Baltimore Housing Program provides home renovation to basically Baltimore City residents, so therefore community members, parents take advantage of this grant that provides home improvements. My largest referral to that program has received over $100,000 worth of renovations. They range from $100,000 to $5,000 in home improvements.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
I have to ask you to wrap it up, please.
Okay, I am. Finally, without the school board's support and policies that enable community schools to carry out its unique mission, none of those activities would have been possible. So thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Mitchell?
I just want to say it's nice when you run out of time saying great things, so it's really great to hear.
Yes.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Next, we invite Helen Atkinson.
Good evening. Thanks for letting me speak. As you may know, the Teachers Democracy Project has been meeting over the course of the past few months with members of the community, teachers, and other advocacy groups to discuss the board's equity policy. Per the policy calendar, we understand that this should be coming up for board consideration in November, so we've been getting ready. We feel that there's a great deal more public input needed around this important issue, but our initial input consists of 2 main points. We have consistently raised the issue of how input to policies in general is solicited. We do understand that the policy committee is now open to the public and appreciate this, and we also welcome the invitations that our group, TDP, gets to give feedback on policies. However, we do observe that the set of groups that are contacted explicitly about each set of policy revisions is either very limited, sometimes just to PCAB and the Charter Advisory Board, or else it seems kind of random, and it often misses key groups. So our recommendation is that Board Policy BGA, which deals with policy development, should be amended to include a process for systematically identifying and updating appropriate teacher, parent, student, community, and advocacy groups for various types of policies. It doesn't seem like a great big ask to do that, and it should be more systematic. And our second point is that regardless of whether you guys decide to do a new equity policy or just make revisions to BGA, we'd prefer a new equity policy, and the people we talk to would like that. But regardless of how you go on that, we propose a public process to identify a set of data points that reflect important recurring equity issues that come up every board meeting. These data points would be shared publicly, perhaps on an annual basis, and this echoes what Ms. Trueheart raised last board meeting, through a variety of communications. This would allow groups that have concerns about things like hiring, teacher retention, suspensions, distribution of resources, and other key issues to engage substantively in a discussion about how improvements can be made without having to hunt down this information, have it all in one place. And we will have further recommendations as we move forward toward your consideration of this policy. Thank you.
That's very helpful. Are there any questions or comments?
Okay.
Very helpful.
Thanks.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Sekou Kasamo? Oh, he's right there.
Madam Chair, Dr. Santelises, board members. I came here thinking that it was going to be an award-type situation given to the police officer that confiscated that Desert Eagle, but I was advised that that's put off because he couldn't be here. So I'm going to talk about briefly something I just read very quickly, very briefly. And that was about the page 5 of the school police report card and the summary of results, which I found to be very inspirational. And it says, students and police have a positive relationship as indicated by 85% of students feel that school police are respectful to students, 81% of students feel that school police are approachable, 80% of students feel that school police do not make them feel like criminals. In addition, more than 70% of students agree that school police contribute positively to school climate and make them feel safe. So I'm hoping to hear other folk expound on this because I just read it very quickly and very briefly. But in my honest opinion, our school police, based on this data, have been exonerated. And we need to applaud them and give them their props, their accolades.
So there will be a presentation, so people will expound on that, including the data collection methodology and survey methodology, and I'm sure they'll discuss at the time also their work with the student groups to work on that report together.
Is that going to be tonight?
It's going to be tonight.
Thank you.
Matter of fact, after we go through the consent agenda and get responses to the questions, that'll be the last section of the agenda.
I'm standing till I hear.
There you go. Thank you. That concludes our public comment tonight. Thank you. I'm always impressed by people's willingness to come and engage in these public sessions, so thank you very much. What I'd like to do now is ask board members if, based on public comment, if there are any other items that you'd like to pull from the consent agenda? Okay, so we have pulled 8.01, 10.01, and 17.01. So what I'd like to do is have a motion to approve other items on the consent agenda that were not pulled.
Motion to approve the remaining items on the consent agenda.
Commissioner Cooper, do I have a second? Commissioner Hassan, all in favor? Commissioners Berkeley, Hassan, Canham, Kashani, Cooper, Frank, Cheney, Bondima. It's amazing how hard that is. Bondima. Motion passes 7-0. God, I don't know why that's so hard. Okay. So now we will discuss the items that were pulled. Good. First item is 8.01, the Walter P. Carter Lois T. Murray Elementary Middle School.
So which one? When you're not using them, just turn the other one off. Is there getting feedback? Okay, so put this in the top. You can use each one, just turn them on or off, that's all.
Good evening, Madam Chair.
Yes, ladies, if you could
Board members,
introduce,
Dr.
if you
Santelises.
could introduce yourself, ladies?
Yes. Mignon Anthony, Executive Director of 21st Century School Buildings Programs. I'm joined tonight by my colleague Deborah Brooks and Ms. Nicole Price.
She's there.
She didn't know she was going to sit up here, but...
She's not. She is now.
Yeah. To talk about a very important, as all of our schools are on the 21st Century Program, Walter P. Carter Project. We understand that there are some questions that Commissioner Hassan James has, but I would like to take a minute to just provide an overview of this project and also to address a few of the questions that were brought up in public comment. I think that all of our project team would agree that Walter P. Carter, and again, thank you for considering this is the 17th of the 21st Century School projects that are being presented to the board for approval to move forward to design. Yes? Okay. That are being moved forward into the design process. The design process will move forward if this project is approved. Let's see. I'd like to get a better, I think that's a better shot to provide. So Walter P. Carter epitomizes basically all of the challenges that we have seen in any of our projects. It is a project which currently has about 400 students. It is going to absorb a closing school, which is Guilford. It is going to be co-located with a special education school. It has an extremely challenging site in that there's a huge steep hill and a 6-foot water main that runs through the site. It is absorbing a recreation center, and during the course of about almost a year and a half of engagement, we found that the structural problems with the city-run rec center and the city-run swimming pool that are currently adjacent to the program were impossible to maintain and to renovate or replace the school. And so, again, very involved community. There were, I don't know how many engagements, but over 200 residents and stakeholders have been engaged in the process. And we did almost 10 options for this school, more so than any of the other feasibility studies that we've conducted thus far. We looked at the height issues that were asked of us of one of the public comments. We've tried to address that in the option that was recommended. We think that we did do as good a job as we could in dealing with the outdoor area, and I'll talk a little bit about that. In co-locating schools, we tried to deal with the entrances and the bus turnarounds and the neighborhood where there was a closed street, and we had to figure out how the services are going to be provided into the school. So as a feasibility study, you all know that this is not a design, that we will continue to work with the community. We're excited about working with the community on finalizing the design of the school. And we feel that the recommendation, the option 4 recommendation that's made will bear itself out to be the best for the community. Yes, ma'am.
I think what I'd like to do is to pause at this point.
Yes.
And let Commissioner Hassan, because I think that's a good overview and touches on the issues that were raised.
Sure.
And I'd like Commissioner Hassan, who has a slightly different set of comments and questions, if we could address that. Is there another slide that you're going to show?
No, I was going to just, this is one that sort of overviews the recommendation that was made.
Can you put that up?
Show the,
That's
yes,
great.
the elevations of the school as proposed in terms of the approach.
If you could leave that up, that would be great, so people can.
Okay, the orange section is the Walter P. Carter area. The Lois T. Murray section is the orange. I'm colorblind. That's yellow. I was starting at the top. Yeah, I see I need her. Yeah, the more yellower orange is the Walter P. Carter. The deeper orange is the Lois T. Murray section, and the blue sections represent the shared and community spaces for this school.
And what did we decide on in the ops meeting for the level 2? There is one section that is shaded, that it belongs to Lois T. Murray.
It's the upper part of the gym.
It's the upper part of the gym,
section.
so it's
Yeah,
just open.
That's correct.
Okay, that's what we decided.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Commissioner Hassan?
So I have 2 buckets of questions, and one, very admittedly, one of my challenges just as a process in being on the board is where do you ask some of these questions? So this question comes from much more of a philosophical about how we approach budgeting in the district. One of my challenges since coming to the board was understanding that we have a limited amount of fiscal resources and that we need to spread them out as wide as possible. So the idea of co-located schools means 2 sets of administrators, 2 sets of secretaries, 2 sets of music teachers, 2 sets of art. And so I'm wondering, while we've got this opportunity for 21st century schools, why we are continuing with a co-location. And this particular co-location has some different issues based on the populations involved, but just in general, moving forward in the school, I just want to put the question out into the ethos for Dr. Santelises, for the 21st century people, for teaching and learning, to just think about ways we could become one school while we're all in a building to save the financial expenditures of additional administrative staff and redundancies. The other question that is specific to this co-location is the idea of having a separate but equal. So if we have a population of students with special needs that are a different school name, a different school mascot, a different school color in the same building, is that really our message of equity that we want moving forward? Is that really treating the students with the utmost respect and integrity of both populations? Understanding that there are certainly, medical conditions and things like that, but in my review of IDEA, and I consulted a couple of people in the community for IDEA input, there's nothing in IDEA that says separate, even within separate day schools, and there's nothing within IDEA that says separate day schools cannot be in the same building, titled the same name as another program. So just wondering if you could clarify, and I know, thank you, we've met just under these circumstances, but why we're moving forward with sort of this agenda. And subtext there if we have to, and if we can do it better and differently.
So good afternoon again. My name is Deborah Brooks, and I'm the Executive Director of Special Education. So again, to meet the needs of the individual needs of the students that are receiving special education services that are in LREF, which are for public separate day school, this co-location and the students being in this environment will be able to meet their academic and physical needs based upon their individual services that are on their IEP. And so although in IDEA and both COMAR, it talks about the continuum and to be able to provide those services in their least restrictive environment. And for those students, the public separate day school is their least restrictive environment. We are further investigating and open to continue to look to see if in COMAR it says anything about having one administrator. But as far as placement, it is based upon the student's least restrictive environment. And for our students that are in a public separate day school, their least restrictive environment is LREF, which is a public separate day school.
That I absolutely wholeheartedly agree there. My question is, why can't this be the Carter Murray School? Why can't my kid, who is in an LREF, and Commissioner Berkeley's child, who is in a typical developing traditional school, why can't they have both go to Carter Murray School?
So again, it's something that we're open to look into. As we discussed earlier, there's no reason to say that they cannot share and have the same mascot, that they cannot participate in the same extracurricular activities after school, that they cannot still participate in the same, if there's a school fall festival, to be able to participate in that fall festival. So again, we are open and looking into to see if there's an opportunity where they could possibly have an administrator that they are able to share. But we are further and open to look into that.
Perfect, and that's all I'm asking. I think that Baltimore City has a unique opportunity with this capital project to really be leaders in how we do equity and how we are fully invested in the needs of every child. And I think looking at this site is a way we can really capitalize on that. So thank you for this space, thank you for the work you're doing and your continued consideration.
Commissioner Canham?
Thanks. During public comment, they talked about and you mentioned it, but I just want to know how we've modified the height of the building, like 3 stories looking out over houses. That was a concern that was brought to us. Can you just tell me where it was, and has the design been altered, and if so, how?
Yes, the option 4, the way that it was altered, quite frankly, was using more of the site, which led to looking at how the pool and the structure of the recreation center was really going to be impacted. The flattest portion of the site will include the expansion of the longer northeastern wing, and so that was going to be 3 stories, and with using more of the site, the whole building will be 2 stories. Yes.
That's what I thought I remembered, so that's addresses one of the concerns raised tonight. Other questions on this feasibility study?
Could you just comment briefly on the rationale around the pool? Because I know that came up in public comment, and that has been a question. You don't have to have a lengthy, treatise on it, but if you could just talk a little bit, Mignon, about what the team did to assess the viability of the pool staying.
So the option that is recommended has an area in the green space to try and accommodate a swimming pool. We understand that it's an extremely important amenity to the community, and we're going to work with the city and work with whomever to try to, find a way that we can replace that amenity. But there is space on the site to accommodate that, and that's how we're going to try and address it. We have a commitment to trying to help provide a solution.
Great. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Thank you. With that, do I have a motion to approve the Walter P. Carter Lois T. Murray feasibility study? Commissioner Berkeley, do I have a second? Commissioner Bondima, all in favor? Commissioner Berkeley, Hassan, Canham, Kashani, Cooper, Frank, and Bondima. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Next item that was pulled for discussion is item 10.01, College and Career Readiness, Extended Learning Services.
I just about had a heart attack. I thought I hadn't known that you all were connected, and I was just afraid that you were going to leave her right down at Reckon Park Scott.
Commissioner Canham had questions about this?
Hi. When we were talking about this at Teaching and Learning today, just if we could understand the rationale. I know they're requirement contracts, but there are two questions. Number one is bucketing different programs really, puts them up against each other and in a way that doesn't, we have to either vote for them all or not. And so what's the rationale by bundling? Because they're quite different programs doing quite different services. And the second is, I just have to implore us, when we do the evidence of effectiveness, we want to understand the effectiveness of each program. We've said we've done a due diligence process, but that doesn't really help us understand if community law and action is effective. And so I just going to ask the group moving forward just to make sure that if we choose to do requirement contracts like this, that we actually have evidence of effectiveness per each program. That's number one for us when we review, and then just want to understand the rationale for the bucketing.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Parker, Director of Procurement for the school system. So what we do is we look at the different levels of activity that students may engage in. So, for example, we have after-school programs, we have college and career readiness programs, we have culture and climate programs. And so what we do is when we put together a requirement contract for those services, because the schools are availing themselves of their services, we have to assemble a team and make the most efficient use of these teams. And so what we do is we put together a general scope of services for those things. We establish 4 different criteria that we ask the vendors to respond to and submit those proposals. And we can receive 10 to 20 to 30 proposals, all pertaining to culture and climate, as an example. And so it's most efficient for the team's use as well as for comparison purposes of saying, well, this proposal is stronger than the other proposal, and here are the reasons why.
So it's a team organizational bandwidth piece.
Exactly.
So you have a team coming together that has expertise. You have a criteria to review something along the same theme. But I just think like NIFTY and College Bound are completely different. I mean, you could extend and say they're related, but then why would you? I understand that piece, the review, but then why would you keep them together?
So, I mean, going forward, it's easy for us to separate them out individually for the board, so the board can make a decision based on each one of these procurement items. And certainly the strengths and outcomes need to be strengthened as well. But I would say that, we can separate them for the board so it's easy for you to execute. But from an organization standpoint and sort of the limited amount of resources we have to actually go through and vet these proposals that are sometimes 70, 80 pages.
Right.
And then to look at letters of referral from principals and communicate back to those principals, and do you really support this program? It's a considerable amount of organizational work.
Oh, I know.
To finally
Well,
get to the board.
I don't know. I just read them so I can understand. But I guess but so you could do the same process, but then just have them
We could separate
one by
them all
one?
out, and you could vote on them one by one.
Okay, I'm not saying, I think that's the CEO's call. I found this one difficult to review.
Commissioner Frank?
Just wanted to ask Commissioner Ken, I didn't quite understand the question, so if I didn't, maybe others didn't. What is it that you're asking about?
This is a requirements contract,
Right.
and so they're approved requirements, and they're 3 all put together, and we're asked to vote
Right.
on this one. It's called College and Career Readiness, but they're 3 separate programs that have been vetted, that we're voting on together,
Right.
not separately.
Right.
And so I just want to understand, like, the rationale of voting on them together.
Okay.
Because I find them quite different, the program's quite different.
And I want to second the notion that, the motion, that having some outcomes would be helpful. I mean, I know you've heard us. Some of these we've looked at before or had presentations from College Bound, for example, and can remember hearing about some pretty terrific outcomes and desires to expand the program. I also have heard and know good things about the other two programs, but haven't heard lately about the specific outcomes. I just think it would be good for them and good for us. It is a lot of money, and we should know what the benefits are.
So, hi, good evening. Rachel Pfeiffer, Executive Director of College and Career Readiness. And just to answer Commissioner Canham's first question about the grouping, not for your approval, but just in general, because our office does include both college and career readiness, these programs are reviewed by our staff who have expertise in both those areas, and it's partly just structure of our organization, why they're grouped together, though Community Law in Action and College Bound do different things. In terms of effectiveness, we'd just like to provide you with some additional information. So obviously, as you mentioned, you are familiar with College Bound, but just a reminder, in terms of the data we looked at, in the 2016-17 school year, 1,900 College Bound advised students were accepted into college. College Bound provided over 9,318 advising sessions to over 2,600 high school students, college access presentations to 5,700 high school students, and took over 1,000 students on college trips and provided 26 financial aid workshops. College Bound has been a strong partner in many of our schools, and so we took that all into account as we looked at their application. For Community Law in Action, both Community Law in Action and NIFTY, those are both tied to career pathways in our CTE programs. Community Law in Action, or CLIA, is part of our Law and Leadership Academy. And they have worked with students and certified over 300 students as peer mediators. And that was part of what they say they're going to do and what we looked at in terms of the effectiveness of their work. There's some pretty significant associations between participation in CLIA and participation in other extracurricular activities. For, I think, 85% of the students we see participate in 2 or more extracurriculars. Again, association, not causation, but that was a positive connection that we saw there. And looking at the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, currently in 19 of our schools, there were 2 external evaluations that we looked at from 2009-10 school year and additional data from 2014 showing increased test outcomes and increased results in attendance and graduation as well. That's also connected with our CTE pathways, and so we have CTE specialists who come from our office and go into schools with these programs and help support the way that schools are using these programs. So it's not simply our receiving whatever a program wants to give us, but our working with the program and with the school to ensure that students are getting what they need.
Thank you for that. Any further questions? With that, do I have a motion to approve item 10.01, College and Career Readiness Extended Learning Services?
Motion to approve 10.01.
Commissioner Cooper, motion. Do I have a second? Commissioner Canham, all in favor? Commissioners Berkeley, Hassan, Canham, Kashani, Cooper, Frank, Bondima. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The final procurement item to discuss that we pulled is Culture and Climate, Extended Learning Services, item 17.01. Commissioner Canham?
I was just unclear what continuous growth does. I read what was sent. I'm not clear whether they're college and career readiness or are they hall monitors. It's $2.4 million. I'm clear of what they do.
Just let me clarify what you received. So I sent to you what was essentially page 13 from their proposal, but I did not send you all 59 pages of their proposal. But
thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Double-sided. But what you saw was their response to the question, what are 2 to 3 ways in which the program links high school and/or college readiness? And so that was their response. Their program, as I'll let John speak to, is really about culture and climate and intervention services in the schools.
I mean, it can take, hello, I'm John Davis, the Chief of Schools.
Welcome,
It can-
Mr. Davis.
Yes, it can take the form of a number of different ways. I mean, as we've gotten information from Dunbar and Vivian Thomas and also the Stadium School, some schools might need restorative practices, for instance. Some might need help with mentoring. So it's kind of a school-by-school basis, but it's all around culture and climate. I think a lot of the feedback from schools was also around attendance help. So you can see that they play a lot of different hats with respect to with culture and climate, but they mold it to the needs of the school and the students.
So they're kind of hired hands based on and I guess, do we know how they're trained? Are they trained professionals? Do we know what their average, do we have some demographics on who they are? And
So Jeff, you have the proposal, but I believe that they've been trained in restorative practice using a trainer that we're familiar with. I don't remember the exact details. I'm not sure what beyond that, all of the different groups that we work with that have culture and climate do a lot of their own training, a lot of de-escalation training, and a lot of climate support training. But it often, they'll do the training along with the school when the school does new training, so that they can get the same language and the same experience that the teachers are getting.
well, if I classified them as hall monitors, that would not be, no, they're not.
More than that.
They're more than that, but they're traditionally in the hall. They're helping with attendance. They're like.
I'm sure they're helping with
lot
many
of
different
stuff.
situations
Okay.
in the school, that's right.
They're kind of, okay, maybe my frame's wrong, but I just wanted to.
Other questions? Commissioner Bondima?
Thank you. I think I had a conversation with you at Renaissance. Yeah, and my understanding was that what they do is everything outside of, when I say everything that the teacher or the principal and the professional staff doesn't do, they participate in, and I think if you could name those things, it would be better, so we can understand it better. And isn't that what you were talking about? What do they do at the school?
Yeah, no, I read what they did. I wasn't clear, and then what was sent. I thought they were college career counselors, kind of like College Bound, but I think.
I didn't get the understanding
my
that they were counselors.
Yeah, my best shot at this is our traditional thinking of what a hall monitor is to help support the school, but they're trained in other things like restorative practices, attendance monitoring, and they're extra hands on deck to help support our schools and climate and safety.
Because the reason why I'm bringing it up, because we had a conversation, and I thought it was a great idea when she was explaining the type of things that they do, and it was a list of.
So a couple of the other things were like in-school suspension they can help with, they can, and that sort of goes along with the restorative practice. But it really is what John talked to, that they help with what the school needs. So if the school has a need for people to calm the climate down in a particular area, they're going to do their best to do that. They might do mentoring groups. That's one of the big things that they do is mentoring. But they can also help with whatever else the school might need.
So I think following up to the conversation on teaching and learning, I think the question on teaching and learning that came up was about how this links to the blueprint, so that should we be approving such a large contract for work that is it aligned with the blueprint? And so, I think part of the question is, so some of those activities, I talked about Castle and Castle having a list of activities that they identified that would be supportive of Castle. So I think part of the question going forward is contracts like this that are large contracts that schools are choosing vendors. How are we over time going to help work with schools to make sure that increasingly they're choosing vendors and programs that are more directly supportive of the blueprint vision? And so that's a work in progress, but over time, how we're going to help support schools to make those choices so that we are moving away from less of the hall monitor activities to more of the proactive creating positive culture and climate, so we're not relying as much on the hall monitor side of the range of services they may provide.
I would agree with that and also add that as we train our teachers and the rest of the staff on social emotional learning or even more restorative practices, hopefully there'll be less of a need as well.
That's what I was hoping your response would be. I mean, there's a couple things. When you take into consideration the comments we made on the last procurement item about grouping the three together, this one groups three together, but it also has an evidence of effectiveness section for each one. So that would be a good way to do all of them. There's like a little summary paragraph, but I think you can tell what the evidence of what data you're using. So that's helpful for all of them, actually, when you group them. I think also for Holistic Life and Imagine Me, you read the first paragraph and it says what it is, what it does. And that's why I think the challenge in their contract size, where I don't think anything should be considered small because every dollar counts, relative to the first one, they are small. So let's just say that if we approve this, which we'll vote on in just a minute, we should really be able to get a lot of information next year about what happened as a result of this expenditure, and I think connecting it to the blueprint will be absolutely essential, because we are talking about the pieces of the blueprint that we don't have enough money to fund, and this is a lot of money. This is a lot of money. Reasonable? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve item 17.01, Culture and Climate Extended Learning Services?
So moved.
Commissioner Hassan, do I have a second? Commissioner Berkeley, all in favor? Commissioners Berkeley, Hassan, Canham, Kashani, Cooper, Frank, and Bondima. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. All right, now we're going to move to the last portion of our agenda, which is information and discussion. We have 5 items. First is, you're laughing at me.
We're just getting started.
That really wasn't supposed to be a joke, but I guess it was funny. We're going to, first up, we're going to get an update on our wellness, nutrition, and physical activity policy. This policy calls for an annual update, and it's that time of year. Who is doing this update?
Okay. I didn't know if you were, because this is the agenda, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
This is the agenda that is printed for you, but if you go into what?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, all right.
I just said, we were going through it. Okay. You read the whole thing.
The procurement, it went to the operations committee. You actually.
Noted that this is a 43-page slide deck.
Yeah.
Just noticed. Highlight. So I would encourage you to hit the highlights, and then we'll take questions. If you could introduce yourselves, and then we'll get started.
Liz Marquetta, Food and Nutrition Services. Alexia Latz McCain, Teaching and Learning.
Louise Fink, Home and Hospital and Health Services.
We are here to present the annual update on the district's wellness policy. The district passed the wellness policy in June 2015, and there were regulations in the 5 areas that are listed above. And this report is the annual presentation on the strides that we have made in each of the areas. Thank you, Liz. And I'm going to begin with an update around physical education and physical activity. Our team stands before you today to provide you with an update around our work and our programs regarding health and wellness for the district. And as we present our accomplishments for the past year and the year ahead, much of what we are doing is, in the world of wellness, is directly aligned to the city schools blueprint.
for success. So we look forward to continuing the conversation around how our work fits into what student wholeness, literacy, and leadership looks, feels, and sounds like. So in regards to physical education, the district has made a lofty investment in FitnessGram, which is an evidence-based fitness assessment tool for reporting program, assessment and reporting program for youth. This tool tests over a variety of health-related physical activity areas that assess aerobic capacity, muscular strength, endurance, and flexibility. The district purchased 148 licenses, and we were able to leverage our partnership with NFL Play 60 for them to cover the cost of an additional 35. Last spring, teachers received a high-level overview of FitnessGram and what this rollout would look like this school year in the district. And for Systemic PD in August, we were able to provide teachers with training from the Cooper Institute around FitnessGram and in regards to implementation beginning this school year. In regards to curriculum development, a cohort of teachers revised the physical education curriculum for grades 1st through 8 and actually used the framework developed by Open, which it's a program that is available online and free to teachers, and something that we will also be providing training to teachers on October 19th, and we will continue ongoing professional development with teachers this school year. In regards to physical activity, last year the District Wellness Council identified this as a goal for the district, and we were able to provide teachers with training around strategies and resources to increase physical activity in the classroom throughout the school day, and we also were able to provide them alternatives to withholding physical activity and recess from students. And this training was provided by one of our great partners, the Alliance for a Healthier Generation.
I'm going to talk about nutrition standards and the mealtime climate. All of our meals meet or exceed USDA guidelines that are shown here. These are some areas that we've made improvements on in the past year, and most notably this fall, we are testing right now and rolling out a vegetarian menu that will be 5 days a week that is not peanut butter and jelly. We have also worked with School Food Focus to analyze all of our purchasing data. There's a couple of paper copies outside, and this is also posted on our menu website, but it is an analysis of the different items that we're trying to get out of our school meals, and it looks at 3 priority areas, which is chicken, beef, and cheese, and where we are in terms of meeting our goals. We are also this year trying to eliminate the use of styrofoam trays in our cafeterias, and we had a solicitation out, and hopefully you will see something in the not-too-distant future on the procurement agenda with regards to that.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Well, let's pass it first. We have no limits on fresh fruits and vegetables in our cafeterias, and we serve fresh fruit at every meal and salad at lunch daily. We promote purchases of local produce that is grown within 200 miles of Baltimore City. And this map shows you some of the farms that we purchase from. You can also see Great Kids Farm there. And I do want to highlight those apples are the same from Calora Orchards, which are same farm that our apples outside are served from. And we actually got over 1 million pounds of apples from them last year. We also get a lot of produce, well, not a lot, relatively, but we get produce from Great Kids Farm. And this fall we have these items that are coming in. And outside, we actually have the Great Kids Farm salad mix that will be featured in 4 of our schools tomorrow. This week is Maryland Homegrown School Lunch Week. And we're not just, featuring homegrown stuff at those 4 schools. We're doing stuff across the district that is, procured locally. But these 4 schools, Murray G. Faring, Fort Worthington, and Edmondson Westside, I think there's one more, we'll be doing the Great Kids Farm salad this Wednesday. We're also trying to work with the existing urban farms in Baltimore City and to expand the programming and their capacity to do after-school and summer programming with their schools. And this is a map that shows some of the farms that have existing relationships with schools in their neighborhoods, and we're trying to look at ways to increase this over the next couple of years.
What about Strength to Love in West Baltimore?
They're not featured on here. This map was from something specific, but I'm not sure if they're specifically working with the school.
Just curious. I just drove by there today on the way back from Carver, GoTech, and it's huge.
I'll make a note of that. We're also, this fall, kicking off a web application, and on your smartphone, you should be able to download specific nutritional information on specific menu items, as well as rate and give feedback on things that you would like to see and things that you would like to never see again. So we encourage people to download the City Schools app, which will link to this, and to please give us feedback. We also have the menus posted on the district website, and we do have a page for wellness, which features the wellness policy as well as the updates. So people can feel free to check that out. And as always, we're not just trying to serve a nutritious meal, but to make it look appealing to our students. So we're doing a lot of focus on culinary training, and we're actually working with the State Department. We did culinary boot camp for a bunch of cafeteria staff this year, and we're also working with them on a program called Project Select that also pairs culinary presentation skills for food service staff with nutrition education for students. It's important to remember that, we're operating within an environment where we do have limited healthy food availability, and the power that we have as 182 cafeterias to really promote access to fresh fruits and vegetables. So in our wellness policy, we talk about expanding access to school meal programs, and this year we actually started offering the supper program district-wide. And that's one of the biggest things that our department has done, and I really, just want to express gratitude to our staff have really, done a good job at rolling out something that was big, and, we have our bumps here and there, but they're really doing a terrific job. We also had the food bank and the food pantry training here last week with the different coordinators from schools, so we've been working closely with the food bank. And I do want to say a special thank you to them, because they have actually eliminated the ability for us for our schools to order soda or candy in food pantries, and that it does not apply district or across the state of Maryland, but they are working with us to help meet our nutrition standards. This is a snapshot at the past 6 years of participation data, and you can see we're serving around 58,000 lunches a day and 28,000 breakfasts. Some more things that we are trying to do, we did notice a small decrease in our breakfast participation last year. We're trying to expand the number of breakfast after the bell programs and do grab and go district-wide, which allows students, as they might be, arriving in after the bell, to pass by a point of service and grab a breakfast. And we're working with Share Our Strength to provide kiosks and different equipment to help make this transition for schools. Another thing that the district wellness policy looks at with regard to school meals is the mealtime climate. And the cafeteria is the school's largest classroom. So we're really trying to highlight some best practices. I will recognize AFIA. They transition their meal periods with a harmonica. It's a very nice experience. Everyone should have lunch there sometime. And really working with schools to look at, better ways to maintain a good mealtime climate. The other focus as a district wellness committee that we've taken for this year is looking at trauma and all of the food service staff this year. We started with the cafeteria managers, and we'll be working our way to the food service workers. Will receive training in trauma-informed care. So these are the minimum schedules for meal times. And I'm going to turn it over there, back to Alexia for health education.
Yeah, so in regards to health education, just like physical education, our program supports the social emotional aspect of the whole child by providing students with the necessary skills like communication, conflict resolution, stress management, healthy decision making, and healthy relationship building. This past summer, we had a cohort of teachers that recently revised the health education curriculum for grades 1st through high school. And in this new curriculum, we provide teachers with mandatory opioid prevention lessons, lessons from the food span program by JHU, the 3 R's curriculum, which was developed by Advocates for Youth, and resources from one of our partners, Pure Edge, that provides students with stress management strategies. Teachers have also been provided, once again, with ongoing professional development opportunities that include substance use disorder training. So that in August, we trained teachers in how to administer Narcan, and we also provided them with an update around pretty much the lay of the land, what's happening in Baltimore City, what's happening throughout the state, and what's happening nationally in regards to the epidemic regarding opioid use. We also have provided teachers with training around school wellness, how to create a school wellness council, how to create an action plan, and also how to maintain the council once you have it developed. In addition to that, we have the sexual health trainings through the You Choose Project, which I'll discuss now, which is our partnership with the Baltimore City Health Department and the Office of Adolescent Health. This is our teen pregnancy prevention program, in which we are in year 3 of. This program has been implemented in classrooms and in the clinical settings. Last school year, we were able to implement the program to 6,450 students at the high school level, 1,722 at the middle school level, and 2,147 at the clinical levels, which means that we've reached our goal of over 10,000 students. And this school year, we plan on continuing implementing It's Your Game throughout all of our middle schools. We provided trainings for all of these programs with teachers. They were full 2-day trainings. And we've trained counselors, we've trained health education teachers, and I also like to say PE teachers that teach health education. And we also provided additional supports by hosting a professional learning community in which we took a deeper dive into topics such as consent, which we know is a hot button issue throughout the country, how to role play, LGBTQ issues and concerns. And with that said, I also would like to bring to the forefront that the funding for the You Choose Project will sunset June 2018. It was originally supposed to end in June 2020, but again, it will end this June. Our partners at the Health Department have been lobbying relentlessly to Congress, the state, and our community and foundational partners to try to restore this funding, which will be a loss of $1.7 million. So I would just like to take this opportunity to thank you all for your continued support of this project, and hopefully we can continue to build on the investment that we've made for our students in the district around sexual and reproductive health.
Okay, I'm going to be speaking about our student support and our wellness and our health policies. Most of our support policies are part of comprehensive and collaborative arrangements of other agencies that support our students. So the Baltimore City Health Department is our main partner in promoting the health of our students. They operate our school health suites, and every single health suite in every school in Baltimore City is staffed on a daily basis. They supervise the nurses, and they supervise the services that are provided. They provide first aid, emergency response, medication administration, health screening, and scoliosis screening. They also look at asthma health plans, and they look at helping us with immunizations, which is our big September project. We have a special program which is not unique to Baltimore City, but Baltimore City and the Baltimore City Health Department have really gone further than almost anywhere else, where we have in-school dental services, where we have served thousands of children. We have agreements with 2 vendors, Oral Health Impact Project, which is a project which is originally out of Philadelphia, and Mobile Dentist, which is originally a project out of Michigan. They are both licensed in Maryland so that they are able to provide services to our students. And they directly schedule school visits and days of service to meet the unique needs of each of the school communities. They will see students who have permission slips. Permission slips are sent out to the students as part of the back-to-school packet, and the schools sort the permission slips, and then they contact the dentist. The dentist visits the schools twice a year. One of the things the dentists do and do very well is they have an electronic health record system which allows them to provide information to additional schools, so that if your child starts out in school A and ends up in school B, when they see the dentist can pull up their records and see everything that's going on. In addition, because of the way we've set up the agreement, the students all are assigned a dental home, so that there is a dentist who is aware of what's going on with them, who has access to their records in case there's a weekend emergency or a summer emergency. They're not left hanging. And we've been very pleased with that. The only limitation here, and Alexia kind of alluded to it, is the number of students we can serve is only limited by the number of permission slips we get. The dentists have promised to provide service to all of our students. It's our job to work on getting our permission slips. So we encourage everybody to make sure that students have permission. Believe me, I know how hard everybody is working to make education work in the system, but it's really hard to learn when you have a toothache. We also provide mental health services. Mental health services are part of the curriculum and part of the fabric of every school, so that we have mental health services provided by our Department of Related Services, where there are psychologists and social workers serving every school. We also have a collaborative agreement with 4 agencies, Catholic Charities, Hope Health, Johns Hopkins Bayview, and the University of Maryland, to provide substance abuse services and mental health services in addition under a program we call Expanded School Mental Health in over 120 schools. And we also partner with Behavioral Health System Baltimore and a number of the foundations and the public mental health system to make sure that we can provide services in our schools at a maximum output but a minimum cost for the parents. Another one of the programs that you've probably been hearing about is our Vision for Baltimore program. This is year 2 of the Vision for Baltimore program, where each year we see students in 50 K-8 or K-5 schools. All the students in the school are screened. That screening is a passive consent, so that part of your notice, when you get your notice at the beginning of the year, is that there will be vision and hearing screenings. If your child were to fail that vision test, what happens is you get a note home, and that note home says, we examined and we screened your child's eyes. We would like to do a further evaluation because your child did not pass that vision test. And if your child needs glasses, we will provide glasses delivered to the school free of charge, and your child gets to pick the glasses. And I have to tell you, the Wembley Parker glasses, and they are beautiful. Those of you who've seen the children in the glasses know they look beautiful. Last year, we gave out over 2,000 pair of glasses. And again, the number that we give out is only limited by the number of parents who give us consent. So we're working very hard to make sure that we can reach as many students as possible. Because again, just like it's hard to learn with a toothache, it's hard to read when you can't see. So that's one of the things, those are some of the things we're working on, and working on them along with our behavioral health and other services. Last year, for the first time, we were able to add substance abuse services to 15 schools, and those were provided through the Behavioral Health System Baltimore as part of a substance abuse contract. Okay, thank you. And go ahead. The implementation and monitoring. The district Health and Wellness Council meets 4 times a year. We met August 31st. And we met on the last year. Last year we met 4 times, and this year we've already had our first meeting, which was on September 13th. Our next meeting is December 13th, and it's going to be a special meeting with the cooperation of our food and nutrition partners. We're hoping to serve school lunch at that meeting, so people all get a good idea of what that lunch is, and that's an open meeting, so anybody who'd like to come is cordially invited to join us for our next wellness meeting.
What do you say, Liz? You're going to feed them?
What?
Yeah, I also just wanted to draw attention, we did have some samples outside before.
Yeah.
That was school lunch.
That was school lunch.
Rethink it.
Yes. School lunch and courtesy of the nutrition department, and the meeting is going to be on December the 13th. And our wellness meetings are all open meetings, and we're very proud of all the partners who've joined us in putting the wellness policy together, so that we have the Baltimore City Health Department, the Alliance for a Healthier Generation, the University of Maryland School Wellness Projects, the Maryland State Department of Education, and we are also part of the Urban School Wellness Coalition. We hope that you've enjoyed our presentation, and we hope that we've given you a good idea about where we're going with the wellness policy. I have the privilege of chairing the Wellness Council, and I invite your comments, and I invite anything that you would like to add.
Commissioner Canham, then Commissioner Frank.
Thank you. I have 2 questions, but first, let me tell you, I have 2 children in the schools, and they love the chicken. They come home and talk to me about the chicken sandwiches, and I just had one, and they were great. And of course, I did think they were deep fried, but they're not. They're oven baked, and they're really tasty. And the salad was awesome too. It's spicy. I can't wait to tell Cole that I had my spicy chicken sandwich. So I want to break down vision for Baltimore. I've heard just from lots of sources, this is an incredible program. The question is, are we leaving kids all get universally screened, but then once they get screened and we know that there's an issue, do we know the number of students that have been screened and need glasses, yet we don't give it to them because we don't get the parental consent form? That's one number, because obviously I don't want any student who could get free glasses to leave it on the table. Number two is, can we think of creative ways around it's kind of antiquated that we're sending home a permission slip, we're waiting for the permission slip to come home. Can we get other forms of consent, like a principal calling a parent? Can we receive an email? What's a creative way for parents to kind of give their consent? Or is there creative ways we can do to actually just remove barriers and get the kids the glasses that I think they'd want and the parents would want for them?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. Right now in the legal office in city schools and already in the legal office of the Baltimore City Health Department, we have prepared a form that will allow us to put this on people's text messages, and that people will be able to respond with their permission in a text. We're hoping to have that implemented within the next few weeks. That would certainly improve things. I have noticed that most people look at their phones much more often than they look at anything else they have. So we're hoping that that text messaging is going to help. The principals are calling, and the staff from Hopkins and the staff from the health department and the staff from city schools is also calling. And as the year has gone on and as people have seen the children in the beautiful glasses, the consent rate is going up.
Do you know what the consent rate is?
Yeah, and we hope that with the automated consent that will be on the phones, it will go up even more. The other thing I didn't mention is that if a child breaks their glasses or loses their glasses, they come back and give them another pair. So far, the most we've done for any one student has been 3 pairs, but we really encourage them to take care of them as well. Because again, the things that go around you, the glasses, the teeth, those things are things that are really imperative to make it possible for you to access our educational program.
That
So
was super.
Louise, do you know the consent, the amount of forms we're getting back?
It really varies from school to school. We've had one super school that got us 100%. We've got another school that got us 95%. Some are as low as 40%. But we are working really hard to get them in there. And everyone who sees the glasses and sees the children with the glasses, they are much more inclined to support this. So the second year is definitely easier than the first year was.
That's interesting. Commissioner Cannon, another question?
Okay, I'm going to move over to dental because I think it's another incredible. I've heard amazing things. It's amazing that they'd service any student. So, is there anything that we could avail the dental services to? And is there a similar thing that we can do there? Get creative ways to get consent. Because again, I feel like it's pretty antiquated that we send home a form. Although we want to inform parents, is there ways that we can inform them that we're going to be doing screenings for every child and they could opt out, basically? Have we looked into that? Can we look into that? Are there creative ways?
We did look into that. We cannot do dental with opting out. You're going into somebody's mouth. So that is a touch type of thing. You can do vision screenings because vision screenings are a different kind of operation. You can do that with an opt-out. You can't do dental with an opt-out.
How about the
Also, there is a degree of informed consent that goes into the dental form that would be very hard to put on a mobile phone. What we do need to do, and we're trying to do, is do more phone calls and more outreach. And again, once people have seen the dentists and they've been in their schools, they're much more inclined to come around the next time. So the numbers have been going up, and we hope they will continue to go up. Once you've signed consent, that consent is in force until you withdraw it, which means that we're not constantly looking for new consent, but we do call and update parents and let them know, we have a consent report on file. It will stay on file unless you withdraw it. So we kind of compromise between doing yearly consents, which would really reduce the number of kids, but at the same time giving parents the privilege of knowing that this is not happening on an annual, this is not a forever thing.
Thanks for all you're doing and pushing this. It's really, really important, and it's the numbers that we read in our report are really impressive, and I just want more kids to access it. So
Well, you're
thank
right.
you.
So do I.
Commissioner Frank?
Thanks. Actually, I wanted to ask a question about meals, but I want to just ask one follow-up question on the vision. So if 100% of the eligible children received parental approval, do we have the funding to pay for all of that?
Yes.
Great.
Actually, this is, the programs that we discussed, the dental program and the vision program are all completely funded by medical assistance and grants.
Great.
And there is no city schools money which is going into the program. There is, of course, city schools time which is going into the program with people trying to get consents, people following up, my time. But other than that, we really have been gifted with good collaborative partnerships that enable us to do a lot of things for kids with a minimum investment. Even in the mental health program, which you didn't bring up, we've been able to parlay a small amount of money into a large amount of schools because we were able to access the public mental health program and substance abuse programs.
Thank you. So I too have a son at home, and unfortunately he doesn't come home raving about the chicken. I hope it's not because City gets better chicken than Polly. Just want to make sure about that. Probably is? Okay, well, we can talk about that offline.
Yeah.
But, so he's my focus group of one in terms of giving me his feedback, and I think Commissioner Bondima would tell me one is not statistically significant, but nevertheless, that's where I get it. I wanted to ask, we had a conversation in operations with Keith Scroggins about the work he and his team does making repairs in schools and work orders, and one of the things we talk about is how do you get feedback from your customers, in that case the principals, and we talked about how he might do that. He was receptive to that. So one of the things that was not in the slide presentation is whether that happens, how do you get feedback from the students? I get it. How do you get it? How do you measure it? How do you react to it? What do the principals do it on a school base, from school to school, or because everything you talked about, policy, implementation, execution, ultimately you want to know whether the kids are enjoying what they're eating. They're getting nutritious food, but are they enjoying what they're eating and getting a quality experience? So how do you measure that?
There's a couple of different ways. I'd like to look at the trash cans personally, and I will go around and take photographs of what is in there. And we had done plate waste analyses before as a department. A couple of years back, we worked with Waste Neutral and actually went out and weighed out the different components to see what we were wasting the most of. At that point, we had moved to a lot more fresh fruits and vegetables, and the concern was that a lot of it was going right in the trash. But actually, students really do love their fruits and vegetables, and we were on par with any other district that had done a similar waste report. I believe we looked at Boston Public Schools when we did that to kind of gauge where we were at. We look at the data for what is, served every day, and I will tell you, our most popular day is Pizza Friday. It's my favorite lunch as a child. It still is pretty much the most popular day in any school district across the country. We look at production records and what is served and prepared and what is left over. So we, good managers really know and understand, what is more popular with their students. If we offer two different options, who's, how many students are likely to take what. And that's important for us in terms of projecting our orders and making sure that we don't have food waste because, we want as little food waste as possible. The district climate survey also asks a question about school food, but I'll say it's one question, and if you ask the question, are you satisfied with the food options offered at your school? It's going to put us, close to the toilets, which I believe we're usually the bottom or one up from the bottom. I like to think that's because we're very necessary, but I think the last time it's usually around 33 to 34% of our students that respond favorably to that question.
But is there a quality control mechanism that happens?
I mean, there's quality control across the board. When food is delivered, it's supposed to be checked and inspected, make sure it's the correct volume, make sure we're not getting, product that has gone bad or anything when it comes into the kitchen door. There's quality control on the serving line in terms of, making sure we're not putting anything out that we ourselves wouldn't eat. There are personal opinions about food as well, but, the more we can identify issues and specific products that are bad, the more we get them off our menu. We do student focus groups for any new item that we put on the menu, and we require 70% or more of students to approve it before it goes on the menu. But that is not to say that every student will enjoy every item. We also do offer versus serve, which requires that we offer the 5 components. Students only have to take 3 of them, and the only item they have to take is a fruit or vegetable. So we really try to do a good job with our fruits and vegetables to present them in an appealing way, because our goal is to get kids not just to take it through the line, but to consume it. And if we haven't done that, we're not really doing our job.
Thanks, and Polly really loves Crab Cake Thursday, so keep it up.
I'm trying. It is Maryland Homegrown School Lunch Week, and I would like to work with Coco's next year to have crab cakes, but it's, we get $3 per meal.
Any more questions, comments? Commissioner Hassan?
So thank you all for this. We all know that your offices are lightly staffed, and you're doing the lion's share of the work that could easily be a much larger team. First question that I have for you is regarding the District Health and Wellness Council. On the slide that you present, it shows external partnerships. Can you just flesh out for us who are the internal members of that organization, or sort of groups?
Okay, I can start. Food and nutrition, student support, related services, health education, home and hospital, and let's see, facilities, and then other people that we invite, and sometimes they come and sometimes they don't come. We send out we get a very nice attendance for that meeting, and sometimes people will come to one meeting, or sometimes people will come to another meeting, but it's very much made up of both the internal and external partners.
Just given the focus of the blueprint and the Office of the Whole Child, given that you can't have a whole child, primarily if you don't have a child and they come in a body, it would be great to see teaching and learning represented on your committee.
They are.
You're teaching and learning. I thought you were health and wellness and physical education. And,
But that's all part of teaching and learning.
But I'm thinking someone more of like the Janice and Mr. Conley kind of level, so that we have some real invested embeddedness of academics in this. Also social work psychologists, those pieces.
They are there as part of related services.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
And then, as we back map that to schools, there's no information here. One of the wellness policy requirements is that each school have a school health council. Are there representatives of each of those councils that attend this larger council? And if so, do we know how many school wellness councils we have? How many are functional? How many have leadership teams? Those kinds of information will go a long way to supporting if we're really implementing this policy. And I don't need it now. We asked for it last year, so now I'm asking for it louder for next year. Because even if the answer is we don't have any, that's the answer we need to know.
Yeah, we do, and we do have some very successful ones. We have some that have been commended, and we will add that as a component for and we'll get some information to you before we get to the next year's policy.
If you've got it, that'd be spectacular, because it's much easier to go out and evangelize the positive messages that are happening around this if you have the information behind it.
Yes, no, we do encourage the school council, and we've actually adopted the school climate as part of what we are focusing on for the coming year. So we will be working with, the Alliance for Healthier Generations, who is in several of our schools and has helped with the developing of the wellness councils within the schools, which gives them some extra support and extra staff. And we did cut a little bit of it because we didn't want to talk all night.
50 slides is too many. Then looking at, I've heard from 7 separate schools that their principals are using recess as a punishment, restricting recess. And so I'm just wondering if you can comment on messaging that's going out to principals, or how you're communicating the fact that physical activity restriction is not a consequence, that it's welcome in restorative practices, nor in Baltimore City Schools wellness policy.
Well, we would love to know the names of the 7 schools. We'll get to them directly. But the bottom line is, the whole wellness policy is posted on Board Docs. It's required reading, and we've asked people to make sure that they look at it. One of the other pieces that you mentioned in there is the piece that Liz mentioned, is that we also don't allow people to either withhold food or use food as rewards or punishment. So we're working very hard to get those things across with the school wellness councils and with the people from the Alliance for Healthier Generations, and we're hoping that that will stop. 7 schools is a big improvement over where we were when we started.
That's how many have parents and families have reached out directly.
Right.
So
No, but-
another metric that might be really nice to see next year is just how many email blasts did you send out, or in the CEO's update, how many times was it mentioned about not using food rewards or not restricting physical activity? You can't get to every school, and we don't need to micromanage, and most assuredly, I gotta get back up into governance because I'm diving back down. But some of those things would help us have more confidence in the implementation. And then lastly, looking at the health and physical education, great presentation of what's happening sort of at the district level, but not a picture of what's happening at the schools. So we've got FitnessGram, how many schools have implemented the test with fidelity, how many students have been impacted. I'm hearing in my work there that it's just not being done, it's on a shelf, and nobody's using it. So how are we pushing teachers to do that? And again, not an answer, just throwing it out there. But the information last year when we sat here, and yes, specifically, what could we do, would be metrics around how many physical educators do we have, how many licensed health educators do we have, and then ask Dr. Stewart to use her great visual analytics and map those. Because there's an equity issue that I think we're gonna find pretty quickly about who gets licensed physical education, licensed health education coverage. So having a map of where those teachers are, and then the next step would obviously be go to how many minutes a week or hours a week do each student get. That's much harder to tabulate than going to HR and saying how many do we have and where are they. So that would be something that I hope to see in next year's. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thanks, ladies. Next, we are going to have a brief presentation on the City Schools Master Plan. There was a 45-minute, really deep discussion about this at this morning's Teaching and Learning Committee. The full presentation is is posted to board docs, so we don't need to have the whole discussion again. But if you could just hit the highlights for us, that would be terrific.
Lovely, happy to. I'm Casey Mengel. I'm the Special Assistant to the Chief Academic Officer. And so, per the request, we'll make sure to just hit the highlights of our Bridge to Excellence, the City Schools Master Plan for 2017. As you all know, we have been engaged in creating a master plan as part of the Bridge to Excellence in Public Schools Act since 2002. Historically, we've done an annual master plan. However, about 2 years ago, the model changed to being an annual update on the master plan. And so what I just want to highlight here are a few of the ways in which we are presenting information a little bit differently and ensuring that we're grounding the master plan moving forward in our blueprint. One of the key things I do want to note on this slide is, and as we have always done in aligning our master plan with our budget, this year we will be also aligning it with our Title IV Part A funds, which is a new grant to city schools. So just wanted to make sure I called that out, as typically we talk about Title I, Title II, Title III, etc. Title IV is a newbie, so we're welcome to have it, and we'll be including that as part of our master plan submission
And
this
just
year.
for the uninitiated, Title
Sure.
IV Part A is?
So Title IV Part A focuses on providing educational opportunities, well-rounded education to students, focusing primarily, although it goes into many areas, on STEM and STEAM, as well as the whole child, so aligning nicely with our whole child supports in the blueprint, and also focuses on technology.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Just a quick highlight here. These are the House bills and Senate bills under which we are asked to align our requirements.
Yeah, we don't need to background on all the legislation.
No worries.
Not to be rude, but.
No problem. Thank
keep
you. So one thing that I want to make sure to highlight, as I mentioned at the beginning, that we are really grounding the master plan submission this year and laying the foundation in alignment with the blueprint. Critical as in our master plan executive summary, we've taken the opportunity to really introduce the blueprint, how we arrived at the blueprint in the 3 focus areas of student wholeness, literacy, and leadership. At this point, the blueprint, however, does not, or the master plan, I'm sorry, does not look at data and metrics aligned to the blueprint, right? So what we will be able to do in laying the foundation through this master plan is to be able to report out using blueprint metrics in our master plan next year, in alignment with the areas that the master plan requires us to report out on. So we've ensured to call that out and make sure that we provided the summaries of how we arrived at student wholeness, literacy, and leadership as our key areas of focus in the district. The budget narrative too aligns to this, as does the PARC data that we present and the alignment with the academic goals, objectives, and strategies. One thing also to highlight, which is different this year than it was last year, is that our academic goal that we present in the master plan is the one that we've set forth in the academics office at the beginning, I should say in January of 2017. So we wanted to make sure that this was also clearly called out as an update in our master plan. The strategies under it do align with what we are doing in the blueprint work in terms of increasing teacher capacity, focused specifically in grades 3 through 5, 6, and 9. Engaging in a coordinated professional development plan across all levels of leadership in the district, and using data to adjust instruction. Highlight of the areas that are requested to be addressed in the master plan are here. We also include an update to our assessment strategy, and any updates that we have included there around interim assessments, middle course, end of course are all included as part of our master plan submission. The master plan in full detail is available, will be available tomorrow on City Schools' website for review and for feedback. The responses that we do glean from stakeholders will then, of course, be leveraged to submit a final master plan to MSDE. Just a high-level timeline, our master plan was submitted to MSDE today. It goes out for feedback between tomorrow and October 5th. Our board, it will be brought back to the board on October 10th for a final review with feedback from the community as well as MSDE. And then it goes through a series of reviews at MSDE, content and technical reviews, etc. The final submission is due on November 17th. That will include all of the title documents, all of the attachments, as well as the narrative pieces. And then on December 5th, it will be brought to the state board for their review. Questions,
Terrific.
comments?
Yeah, Commissioner, yeah, well done. Commissioner Hassan?
Yeah, Ms. Nagel, do they go to give feedback directly to the Baltimore City Public Schools website and link it from there, or is there a direct link for people?
There's actually a direct link to my email.
Okay, which is kmengel@bcps.k12.md.us?
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent. Next up, Capital Improvement Program. I didn't do the order. I wouldn't have it first. We can change the order.
So good evening, Commissioners and Dr. Chantalicious. Today I'll be presenting the FY19 Capital Improvement Program. So as you all are aware, every year, City Schools submits a 6-year plan to the IEC that identifies our construction needs, prioritizes those needs, and then identifies a plan for us to implement projects and fund projects. So today I'll be going over some highlights from our previous CIP projects, going over the key goals for FY19 Capital Improvement Plan. I'll talk about our CIP requests for this year, and then also the relationship between those CIP requests and our reserve contingency funds. So this is a summary just of where we are for our CIP projects over the last 3 years. The FY18 projects are currently in design. FY17 projects are also moving forward, as well as FY16 projects. I'll just take this time to remind you that last year we talked about the implications of the state partially funding our projects, and I'll talk about this a little bit later on, but as a result of those partially funded projects and receiving funds for CIP projects over multiple years, in addition to just increased costs that have happened, we did have to rescind projects from FY16 and FY17, so I just wanted to remind you of that as you look at these numbers, but we'll talk about that more in detail. Our 2 major projects, Halliburton and Graceland, so they are almost ready to go out to bid. So actually they went out to bid previously and there were issues with some of the bids, but we're still on schedule with getting them out to bid and then construction beginning in 2017. So we've received about half the funds from our state allocation for these projects. So that's important to remember for how I'll talk about how our FY19 request is structured. So the balance of the major projects, or our FY19 request for those 2 projects, is going to be about $23 million. So it is for Halliburton, our request is going to be for $13 million, and $10 million for Graceland. And as you will recall, our allocation every year is generally about $36 or $37 million. So the majority of our FY19 requests will be for the balance of funds on our major projects. In addition, we have 3 HVAC projects that have already been designed that were included in the rescissions that we needed to submit to the state based on that partial funding issue. I'll talk about a little bit more about those projects, but those are our 3 priority projects for this year, and they total about $13 million. So the $23 million for our major projects, $13 million for these HVAC projects will be the majority of our allocation for this year. Within this year's FY19 request, of course, in order to implement our 5-year air conditioning plan, what happens is since they are new projects, we submit them as a part of the current year request, but we anticipate that they'll be funded with reserve contingency funds. And then, of course, some of the projects that weren't funded in FY18, in order to be consistent across CIPs, we included them and moved them up in priority for this year's request. So this is just a summary of our FY19 requests. Our 3 replacement projects, of course, Armistead is still in planning. Our AC projects, there are 12 of them, and then the rest of the projects, our systemic projects are as you see. And I should mention that we did map these against our Community Conditions Index, and I can say that these 38 projects are well distributed across the city. 10 of them are in our lowest investment areas based on our Community Conditions Index. 10 of them are in the highest, and then there are 9 of them in the 2 middle categories. So our total request is $96 million. The $79 million request from the state, the $17 million allocation that we get every year from the city, to total $96 million. And then I should also mention that these amounts are based on our current state and local cost share, which is 93% and 7%. So for all of our capital improvement projects, 93% of the hard costs are funded by the state, 7% by our local allocation. And so I'll talk just a little bit briefly about some of the discussion that's happening around state and local cost share. So as I said, currently the percentage is 93% and 7%, and we learned in August that, so every year the ISC has to make recommendations to the BPW about this state and local cost share. And so we learned in August that the recommendation from the IEC was going to be a 5 percentage point decrease in our state share for FY19, and then another percentage point decrease, the total up to a total of 6 percentage point decrease through FY20. So that began a series of conversations with PSCP, the IEC, and MSDE to discuss the actual formula they use. So our position right now is first that there should not be any changes made at all, just based on the other discussions that are going on as part of Kerwin for limiting and as a part of the changes that were voted on in the last legislative session to change some of the inputs into the funding formulas, in particular TIF, and we know we'll get some recommendations through the Kerwin Commission in December about some of these funding issues. And so our first position is that there not be any changes made. But to the extent that there will be, the main concern for our city schools is that the $127 million in bonds issued by city schools be included in the calculations. And so currently, it is not. So only the Baltimore City school construction debt is included in the calculations. And so we've been having some conversations and back and forth with the IEC about that. There's a regulatory process, so they haven't voted on it yet. And there, in addition, there's a regulatory process that even happens after the vote, but the BPW has the ability to change the COMAR language that would allow us to include our $127 million in city schools issue debt.
So that's not what I'm going to say. It was well done, but I think I just want to draw attention to the importance of what Nicole just said. She did it rapidly because we have like 3 more presentations to go, but the significance, and I know our public has thinned, but this is also frankly a place of advocacy. The implications of the debt and how that is counted have serious financial implications for the district. So I'm just pausing, so for the people that remain, for people who are watching, this is not a minor technical detail, and John Walker isn't in the room right now, but the financial implications of how that debt gets counted is not a minor detail. So I did just want to pause and make sure that we all woke up a little bit to know that that's just not a slide. It is a slide with serious financial implications. So thank you, Nicole.
Sure. And we'll continue to have those discussions, so we'll might possibly be reaching out to you all to support us in our advocacy to make sure that our debt is included into the calculations. And just to make the larger point, so this happens every 3 years. So the last time this state cost share was updated, we had a decline of 4 percentage points. So in addition to that decline from 3 years ago, it would be a total of a 10 percentage point decline in our funding if they were to move forward. And I just want to thank the rest of the city schools team who helped us on this. So Jessica Wilson, Dewana Starrett, Melissa Bloom, Sally Robinson, who all came out we actually testified in front of the IC a couple of weeks ago on this issue. And this is just an example of just how all these things that are happening with the CIP, how they all come together. So these 3 air conditioning projects that I mentioned that are the priority systemic projects for this year's CIP. So they were originally submitted in FY16, and they were partially funded in FY16 and FY17. And so we requested contingency funds for those projects to get them moving, because 3 years between when a project is originally scoped and we receive estimates is just a long time. And so we did receive contingency funds for those projects, but when we went out to bid on these projects, as you can see, these projects increased about $1 million each. So it was a total of a $3 million increase across these 3 projects for the total estimated cost. And so that's one issue. And then now that we had to rescind these projects because of the difference in cost between the original estimation and then the bids that we received, we now have to submit them in FY19, but now we're going through this change in the state cost share. And so the amount that we would receive for these projects at 93% and at what we receive at 88%. So the difference across these 3 projects is going to be about $1 million. So that doesn't sound like a lot of money for HVAC projects that total in $16 million, but where that difference comes from, we would have to fund that with our local capital funds. And so this is just an example of all the things that we're paying for with our local allocation, and these are our local allocation expenditures. So right now, we pay about 7% of our hard costs through our local funds. The proposed state and local cost share, it would increase to 12%. We pay contingency costs through our local funds, and just a host of other things that make $1 million very significant. And that's just for the one project. Across all our projects, where it will be about $2.5 million increase if the state cost share were to change. And then our reserve contingency funds, just really briefly, the relationship is, since we will probably only get through our major projects in these 3 HVAC projects that I identified, the way that we will move forward any systemic projects is with our $31 million balance in reserve contingency funds from the projects that we had to rescind. And that contingency fund request consists of 4 projects that were previously rescinded due to contract issues, our 12 AC projects that I talked about, 6 systemic projects that were in the FY18 CIP that we're we want to move forward with, and 2 projects that were partially funded last year. And so this is just the schedule for the CIP for this year. As you probably heard, our first BPW meeting is October 18th. Usually this meeting doesn't happen until January, but we're meeting in October, and this is the rest of the schedule. Our first submission is due the first week in October, and this is just a summary. Again, $79 million for our 38 projects. And that's it.
So there you have it. It's terrific. Any questions? We did discuss this at operations as well and had a good discussion, and really to understand the implications of the change in the formula. So keep us posted on that, but thank you very much. Okay. Next up, school police report card.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Teresa Jones, Chief Achievement and Accountability Officer.
Good evening, I'm Tanya Webb, Program Evaluator, OAA.
Good evening, Chief Ham, Chief of School Police.
Good evening, Shane Hall, Director of Research.
So to kick off this evening's presentation, first I want to acknowledge the work that was represented earlier from Youth as Resources and Baltimore Algebra Project. We all know the importance of student voice, and so being able to leverage a survey as a way to get information around how our students are receiving and interacting with school police is a really important tool for us. So this is the first time that we've actually implemented this survey. This is the survey that Youth as Resources created, and what we're going to do tonight is to share with you the results of that survey among those students that are actually assigned to those schools where we have school police on site. So with that, I'm going to ask Tanya Webb to get us started.
So just to recap again, what Ms. Jones had said, the purpose of the school police report card survey was to provide students an opportunity to use their voice to talk about the amount of interactions with the school police as well as the quality of the interactions between students and school police that are permanently assigned to their schools. And again, this is important because this is all about the students. This survey was developed by and for students. One of the highlights of this survey is that it shows that there is a positive relationship between school police and the students. And what the school police can then do with this information is take it and build upon and continue to grow and foster that relationship with the school police and the students. And again, this was the first year that this survey was actually administered. So the results that we got from the survey can be used as a foundation, and then going forward, this data can be used as changes to practices as well as training. So the school police report card survey was administered online. It was available in English as well as Spanish, and it was only administered to schools with permanently assigned school police officers, and it was administered in March of this year. 36 schools and programs were eligible to participate. The schools and programs that participated in the survey had students in grades pre-K to 12. However, only students in grades 5 to 12 actually completed the survey. Total enrollment for those 36 schools and programs was over 23,000 students. We were shooting for a goal of a 30% response rate, which would have been around 7,000 students. We had over 5,000 students that actually participated in the survey, and it gave us close to a 23% response rate. And overall, when surveys are administered, people look for around a 20% response rate. Just to highlight some of the summary of the results, as the gentleman commented in our public comments that 85% of students feel like school police are respectful to them. 81% of our students feel that the school police are approachable, and 80% of students feel that school police do not make them feel like criminals, which is important. And also, more than half, 70% of the students stated that the school police contribute positively to the school climate and make them feel safe. So these are just a few highlights of the slides. Again, my school police are respectful to students. You have over 80% agreement. And when we broke down the results, students were asked to respond either strongly disagree, agree, or strongly agree. So what we did was group the strongly disagree and disagree together, and the agree and strongly agree together. So I'm just going to go through these next slides rather quickly, because again, it's a repeat of some of the information. This slide is just showing how the students feel about their school police are approachable. Again, my school police do not make me feel like a criminal. And my school police contribute positively to school culture and climate. And my school police make me feel safe. So over 60% agreement. What we found out initially when the survey was administered, and some of these areas of concern have been addressed through our meetings with Youth as Resources and the school police, we needed to, at that time, explore a little more deeply. Over half of the students said they feel like the school police do not have an understanding of their life in and outside of school. 48% of students said they feel like school police use excessive force when dealing with conflicts, and almost 60% of students said that they feel that they do not have a relationship with the school police. And again, we kept this in, but some of these issues have been addressed, and Chief Ham can go into that further on into the presentation. And again, just so we can move along quickly, this is just a repeat of some of the data that was discussed previously. I have some form of relationship with my school police. My school police have an understanding of my life in and outside of school. My school police use excessive force when dealing with conflicts. And the students were also asked the question, school police would not be needed if. And most of the themes that came about as a result of that question had to do with safety. Students felt that they would not need school police if their community was safer, if the city of Baltimore was safer, if the world as a whole was safer. They also said that if there was more control exerted by administration as well as teachers, and also to remove disruptive students from school when necessary. Another thing that came out was respect. Students said that school police wouldn't be needed if students were more respectful of themselves as well as others, and also conflict resolution. If students had more options to resolve conflict, then they wouldn't need school police.
These couple of slides are like an advertisement for Focus on a Whole Child. I mean, and the school board is sent every day the clippings, the articles, and I don't get to read them every day, but I read the one this morning, and that comment about 51% of students do not feel that school police have an understanding of their life in and outside of school. I'm going to bet that that's not just school police. That's probably, there's teachers and principals. I know our adults all try, but that article was not about school police, but it had almost that exact statistic as it relates to other school personnel. So I think, our doubling down, if you will, on being able to see the whole child, this survey it's just right there. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'm so struck by the consistency.
Well, and I also just want to thank the team before Chief Ham gets going, because I think it really is the balance of where we have seen upticks in the positive direction. But this presentation also points out the places that we still have a lot of work to do in. And not only those figures, but the figures, students' perception about uses of excessive force, those pieces are there. I will say that I think the reason why, and I just want to call out Chief Ham, because he won't I guess toot or ring his own bell. But I think one of the leadership actions that applies to leaders throughout the district is the willingness to move personnel, not based on adult preference, adult relationships, but based on what's best for kids. And I remember very early on, in one of the first conversations we had, one of those behind closed door conversations with Chief, and we had a heart-to-heart about, do we have the right adults in front of kids? And he took that seriously, and so I think the relationship data points to the fact that we have made some movement in that area. We still have a ways to go, which is indicated in the other data, but I just want to point out that whether they're leaders in other departments, centrally, school leaders at buildings, that this is an issue clearly for principals, but that a key leadership function is the ability to be able to move people not based on kind of their tenure in a position or any perceived entitlement, but it is to begin to chip away at a culture, frankly, that we still have too much of, and that is the expectation that some people have that they get where they get to be where they are because of either who they know or being dysfunctional with kids actually has won you in the past the right to ascend as a way of keeping away from them. And I think what Chief is, and he would even argue it's not fully there, but I just want to call out like an elephant in the room that sometimes we don't want to talk about, but it is a willingness to confront adult issues when we are working with our young people. And I think Chief Ham, because of his leadership, his willingness to put himself on the line, I think that's why we have the progress we have, and why I'm confident that while some of those other figures are still kind of scary, the foundation that's been laid is the right one, and it's because of that kind of tough leadership that people don't want to talk about that the Chief has been willing to do. So I just wanted, I wanted to say that as well, Chief Ham.
Thank you. And just going over some of the recommendations, we've already addressed some of the concerns that are in the PowerPoint in terms of the roles and responsibilities and expectations, a clear delineation of roles between what school police officers should be doing and what principals should be doing in discipline versus criminal activity. We rolled those policies out in September of last school year, and then we did an update based on the 21st century policing recommendations made to President Obama, and we actually infused that into some of the policy that we already sent out in September. As a result of that policy that we sent out, I think it addressed a lot of the arrests for minor offenses, and I think that's why we went from 91 arrests in the previous school year to 85 last school year, and that's why we had a 54% reduction in reportable incidents of use of force. That may be an officer going hands-on, using pepper spray, using a baton. We had a 54% reduction, and we did not have one excessive force complaint filed last school year with us or the Civilian Review Board. So I think it may be a need for more education on what our officers' role is in the school. I can tell you probably about 95% of arrests take place in the principal's office when no other kids are around. So that's something that's in COMAR that we shouldn't be embarrassing students even if they do have a warrant or if we're placing them under arrest. So I think it's an education that probably needs to go out, more education about what we do. We've provided a lot of training. MSDE, Maryland Center for School Safety Executive Director Ed Clark has informed us that we're the most trained police officers in Maryland schools. And We've had training in de-escalation, trauma, mindfulness, social emotional learning, crisis prevention, intervention, all those type of things. And I think one that was really helpful for us, Dr. Bunley and I'm about to call her Mama B, Bridget Alston Smith did a quality connected relationship training with our officers to not only just tell them that they need to have relationships with students, but actually show them steps, things they need to do, being consistent, being approachable, those type of things that I think have helped us in even preventing a lot of incidents last school year and this school year from occurring. So I just wanted to share that. And the roles of our officers have changed. We're doing about 5% police work. It's prevention, intervention, mentoring, life coaching, those type of things are the things that, you know, my direction has been to my officers. And I would be lying to you if I said everybody liked it. Some officers have left. But, you know, I took what the CEO said to me very seriously. We're not going to have police officers around kids that don't like kids or don't want to be around kids or don't have patience to deal with these children. I live in the city. I live in West Baltimore. I have 2 teenage sons. One of them graduated from city, one graduated from city this year. I do not want my children mistreated just like the rest of the children in the school system. So that's just my takeaway from it.
Chief Ham, just a quick question. Thank you for that. You know, you have a priority and you say it and you act on it. It's a good thing. I would assume that there are times when there are incidents that don't necessarily require force, but where kids have brought a weapon into a school. Can you just share with us, like, what happens there when there are incidents that require police work? What happens to the weapon that's confiscated? What happens to the child? Just I want to make sure I understand that. It's sort of on the other end of the spectrum of what we're talking about.
9 times out of 10 when a student brings a weapon into school, it's a staff member that's normally recovering the weapon. It'll be the hall monitor, the administrator, or someone that is receiving the child in school. We very seldomly, at least since I've been the chief, have taken weapons, confiscated weapons from students. Fortunately, those instances where we were involved and kids had weapons, we were able to get weapons from kids by using de-escalation and having relationships with kids. Just to give you an example, we had a situation at Edmondson last school year where some kids were shooting dice outside of the West Side Skills Center. One student saw another student with a gun. And because he had a relationship with the officer at the school, he went to the officer and said, hey, this kid has a weapon. The officer didn't approach the kid. The officer got the administrator, and they talked the kid into the office, and the kid gave them the gun. He had a loaded .38, and he had 30 pieces of crack on him. So I think in that situation, here's a situation where even though this kid was wrong because he was outside shooting dice, he had a relationship with the officer and went and told him that this kid had a weapon, and I can go on and on. The CEO gave an award last school year to one of my officers who was at Carver, who was able to get between 2 students, and the student was going for a weapon.
What happens to those weapons?
We submit those weapons to evidence control at the Baltimore City Police Department. Now, for minor issues like with knives, things of that nature, it's kind of dealt with by the school administration, how they want to deal with it, unless the weapon's used to commit a crime. Now, if you pull out a knife and you rob somebody or you cut somebody, of course, we're going to treat that much differently than a student who is probably carrying a weapon to school because they're afraid going to and from school and not necessarily afraid in school, and they're stashing weapons before they even come into the building. That will be dealt with a little bit different. But we try to use the minimal amount of force when we deal with these situations, because if we escalate it, it could get worse.
Yeah. Thank you.
Just moving forward, we plan on continuing to have discussions with Youth as Resources, and we plan to have a meeting maybe in October with the School Safety Advisory Board, and that's made up of internal and external stakeholders, just to have further discussions. And we've gone as far as looking at the different schools and where the data wasn't as good as we would like it to be, and having conversations with principals and police officers and school communities about what exactly is the impact of the officer that's at the school. Because I don't, like Dr. Sandley said, I don't have a problem pulling an officer out of a school if they're not in the best interest of kids. It's about kids with me and not adults. So we need to make sure we have the right people around kids every day.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Other questions, comments? Well, we still have ways to go, but boy, we've come some miles from where we were a couple years ago. So thank you for all the effort and energy that a lot of people are putting into this. I mean, there's the discipline policy, there's just a lot of efforts to reach out and work with external partners while you're still doing good, solid, relationship and police work. So thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Last but not least, we're going to talk about school choice. This new setup.
Good evening.
Hi.
How are you doing? I'm Jessica Wilson. I'm the Director of Strategy and Compliance for the Chief Academic Office, and I'm here this evening with my colleague to present the school choice presentation. Dr. Brinkley Parker couldn't be with us this evening.
Good evening. Heather Nolan, Director of Knowledge Management in the Office of Achievement and Accountability.
So this is just a brief overview of what we're going to cover this evening. So Heather's going to present some of the information from the results from the 16-17 choice process. We're going to talk a little bit about lessons learned, the improvements that we're looking to implement for the current school choice process for this year, and then talk a little bit about the bodies of work that are continuing throughout the district in order to improve school choice.
Clean my glasses. So just some context to the school choice process. As Jessica was sharing, we'll review some of the school year 16-17 school choice. So this is choice data affecting those students that are currently enrolled in their 17-18 option. So a quick overview of the process. Students choose up to their 5 schools. There's an application in which schools are ranked by each student. There's an algorithm that's calculated, and over the past several years, the majority of our students have gotten their first or second choices as part of this choice process for middle and high schools. Student participation in the middle school and high school choice process has been, on average, around 96 or so % if you look going back to 2013-14, in 2016-17. So this is the school choice process in which choice applies for 2017-18 school year, our current school year. There was 6,681 applicants, and 94% of those eligible students participated in choice. In terms of assignments by rank, again, overall, roughly 70% or more of our students have received their first or second choice option, with third, fourth, fifth choice options below that 20% range. In thinking about choice for and the work that we want to do moving forward, we're also factoring in and reflecting a lot on lessons learned, not just on our own practice, but also in what the research is showing and what we are seeing nationwide. For example, there was a recent article from the New York Times around the choice process in New York. This is a choice process that they started about 14 years ago, and we're seeing a lot of similarities in the challenges that they're facing with what we face in this school district. So, in summary, their disadvantaged families have trouble navigating the choice process. What does a choice process look like? How do I complete applications? How do I make sure that my student is understanding and picking the right school for them? Most often, children in low-performing schools go to low-performing high schools. And so there's that feeder pattern to that that we want to break away from. And also that students need to understand what options they have so that they can really make informed choices. Not every student might be right for that selective enrollment school, but there is a school out there for them. And how do we make sure that they understand what their good quality options are? Another study that we looked at was more local. This is from the Fund for Educational Excellence. So this is a study that they released in 2017. And the suggestions that they made to Baltimore City Public Schools was, again, offering middle grade students better preparation and coaching around what their choice options are, giving students better information about schools, providing on-demand preparation for parents and how to support their students in making that choice selection, and then also improving the customer service to our parents. So how are we delivering on what their needs are so that they can support their student? What we've also learned from more of our informal qualitative feedback gathering is that our communication and the consistency around our communication can be improved. Our school liaisons, who these are staff at our school that have other job responsibilities as well, and we recognize that they're wearing multiple hats, but because of that multiple hat wearing, they are providing varied levels of support and interaction to students and parents. And so how do we gain greater consistency in their support? We also recognize that there's a need for better communication, training, and implementation of our process, and that there's a need to share better information or more consistency on how the composite information is derived from. So how does a student's test score factor into the choice selection process so that that can be really considered by that parent? And then finally, sharing clear expectations to families on not just what their role is in the choice process, but what they can expect from us as a school district.
So a little bit about what we're going to be doing for this current school year, the choice process that's going on now. One of the things that came out loud and clear from all of the things that we looked through was that communication was very important and that we needed to work consistently on improving that everywhere we had the opportunity. So one of the big changes that we're going to be trying to implement is providing that training to the school liaisons that will allow them to train the trainers, so to speak, talk with staff inside the school and allow them to be able to answer basic questions. We're also going to be holding regional information sessions that district office staff will be helping to support in order to get information out there to as many people as possible. As part of those efforts for those kind of regional hub-based type of communication strategies, we're going to be looking to our partners. There are lots of meetings that already exist throughout the city, and we're going to be asking if we can have 10 or 15 minutes to go and talk to pre-existing groups that are already having a meeting to try and broaden that reach. And we're also going to talk with those a lot of our partners that are already in the schools to help us disseminate some of the information. The other piece on the communication that we heard loud and clear was that it is not always easy for families, students, and even staff that are trying to help these folks through the process to easily find all of the different opportunities that are available to go out for open house days and shadow days at all of the options. And so we're implementing basically a centralized process, and those are going to all be posted on the website, and we're going to use kind of the social media efforts at the district level as well to help promote all of those options. In addition to just training better, we're also going to make sure that that training is available online as well, so that if a school liaison changes throughout the course of the process or was unable to make one of the trainings that are actually being provided in person, they could go online and pull that down and have that information, or even if they just need to refresh themselves. They get a question, they're not quite sure, they don't remember, and it's available there online for them to look at. The other important thing is that they're going to be hosting those sessions both with the staff and also with the families in their schools, and we're going to try and help support the consistency of that happening across the district. The other piece of this is really just the helping to break down how the choice process works and how our families, our students, and even our staff are understanding what families can be doing at different points in the process in order to be better prepared. So one of the things that we're going to be working on is taking the concept of the choice milestones for families that we have up right now and putting this into posters and other materials that we can push out throughout the district, timing it right around the time that we also deliver the choice guides. So we really have kind of two buckets of choice. You have the middle school and you have the high school. So the way that this is set up is it's basically saying if you're thinking about middle school choice and you're in third grade, or you're in sixth grade and you're looking at high school choice, there's a couple of things that you should be doing. You should be starting to learn about your options, what are available out there. Are you a city person? Are you a poly person? Are you interested in MERVO? What are some of the things that you're starting to explore that you might be interested in? And then you should start to develop an understanding of how the grades, attendance, and test scores that you're going to have in the upcoming years feed into what options you're going to be able to get into through the choice process. In fourth and seventh grade, which are those grades right before you're really making those decisions, this is where families should start to get to know who their school choice liaison is at the school. That allows them to ask some initial questions, start to familiarize themselves with who is going to be kind of their main point of contact within that building. They really need to start solidifying some of those interests and goals. Everyone changes their mind throughout the course of their academic career. I myself had multiple majors even in college, so we don't expect fourth and seventh graders to necessarily know exactly what they want to be when they grow up, but having some ideas to help narrow down what their focus is really going to be important so that they can really focus on those grades, attendance, and test scores to align with whatever options are they're really interested in going to. And then the choice timeline for both grades 5 and 8 looks similar. In October, that's really where we kind of kick it off with the beginning of the information sessions. The school visits and shadow days will also start in October, and they continue through January. The choice guide becomes available usually around Thanksgiving time in November, and we'll also be pushing out some of those additional materials about milestones at that time. You also are going to start seeing composite scores, and you can start looking at what your student's composite score is towards the end of November and that beginning of December. What's really important is the beginning of December, we have that wonderful choice fair every year. One of the things that the Fund for Educational Excellence report had was that it was really important for families to attend and have a plan. So that goes back to having those conversations about what your students' interests are and then making sure that you're kind of mapping out your day at the choice fair and connecting with all of those different schools and those opportunities while at that event. Then in January, the applications are due. And by the beginning of March, the first round of letters are mailed out. So again, this is one of the many ways that we're going to start communicating this information more broadly. What's really important are the dates that are associated with that timeline for this year and the resources that are already available for families to take a look at. So December 9th is that choice fair. January 19th is that application deadline, and March 2nd is when the letters will be mailed out this year for the first round of choice. On the right-hand side of the slide, those are hyperlinks for anyone who has access to the presentation at home. You can click the link and see what the application process looks like, what the school profile pages are, which gives you lots of information about all of the schools in the district. The school effectiveness reviews are a great resource for families. They can go and read in depth about what different perspectives are on the school based on a very rigorous process, and it gives you some information about what that looks like. And then there's also the school survey information data that's available, which is families and students telling you directly what they thought about the school.
Sorry, did you want to keep going?
No, it's okay. Yeah. Okay.
So one thing I just want to say is that the team really took to heart a lot of what we've learned nationally around the implications of choice and equity. And one of the big things, and we have a long way to go and we acknowledge that, but one of the things that these previous slides, I think, really indicate the team took to heart was the idea that when you look nationally, the assumption that choice in and of itself is enough when you're talking about low-income young people who come from low-income homes, where families are frankly more focused on things like stability of housing and food and employment, that one of the things that is most important and which is kind of the antithesis for a lot of the way that we have done kind of decentralization and school-based decision-making in the district, is that that information needs to be more explicit centrally, because low-income families are more dependent on the quality of their school leader, their teachers, to communicate this very critical kind of information. And if you leave low-income families on the wave of just how good is your local school in communicating that information, they will always end up with less of that information. So the shift that you're seeing here, when Jessica referred to the timelines, the publication of this centrally, making sure that it is available on websites, on our website, is something that we're going to be asking the community, our community partners, to help us get the word out. While, frankly, we do the hard work we have to equalize the kind of information that families get at the school level. It is still, frankly, a large bucket of work we have to do. And I talk to families on a regular basis who tell me, I go to school X, my principal hasn't said anything about this, there's nobody in the school, they hand my kid a booklet, and then they're gone. And I go to other schools where the family, the student, everybody knows who is the person who is going to shepherd them through the process. And so part of what we need to explicitly be doing is closing that equity gap, which frankly is dependent on district practice, not on kind of where the community is. We have to be able to step in and centrally, in the way that the team, I think, has taken a big step this year, but it's something that we need to shift our thinking in, and that's why I'm kind of pointing it out to the board, that for a long time we've kind of pushed up and said, oh, principals get it and schools get it. And what the research is telling us in a variety of settings, not just in Baltimore City, but across the country, is that that is not enough if we're going to achieve equity, particularly for low-income families. So I just want to put that out.
Thank you.
So,
So take us to the finish line.
okay, so school choice work moving forward, that was a great segue.
That could be the finish line.
So, the district, more broadly, not just for the choice work group, has a vision for equitable access, for school access. So that's to provide equitable access to high-quality academic programming designed to meet the needs of all students and families throughout the city. The choice piece of that work really comes down to 4 things that we think are incredibly important for us to get right. The first one is that we need to be effectively engaging all families in conversations regarding choice, not only just understanding school options, but also what students' interests are, how that overlays with entrance criteria, and even transportation and how all of that needs to play into choice decisions. Supports, we need to be providing supports both to school-based staff so that they understand the process and communicate it, but also that district office staff is providing some supplemental communications there as well. We need to simplify the process, and part of that is that we're going to be working to shift to an online application as opposed to doing the paper applications. And then leveraging our community partners and the opportunities that centrally providing information gives us, basically. So bringing all that information and putting it on our website so that it's one place, one-stop shop, you can go and find it, and also working with all of our community partners to disseminate that information as broadly as possible. Specifically, what we're looking at for the bodies of work as it relates to this is we're going to be looking at reviewing entrance criteria, which will be starting in October. There'll be some staff work in the fall, and then there'll be some engagement for families and communities and staff in the winter and early spring. Really looking at how that the composite score itself and plays into the choice process and access to all of the different programs across the city. The second piece of that is going to be looking at the CTE offerings across the city. That will be beginning in earnest in January. There's going to be some initial work done prior to that, but really taking a look at what we're offering, how that aligns with what the future workforce needs are, and then really bringing that home to how we connect that to re-envisioning the choice process and what that means and what are the adjustments that we might need to make in order to make that a more efficient process. And then the transition to the online application, we're going to be working with our IT department to develop that during this school year, to begin piloting it, testing it, and having more of a hybrid process in the upcoming school year, and then hopefully having that complete transition for the SY 19-20 process. And then again, continuing improvements on communication is something that's ongoing that we have to continue to monitor and receive feedback and then make improvements on the process.
Commissioner Frank?
Should I wait till the end?
I think,
Okay.
I think we're there.
It's almost the end.
I appreciate and thank the CEO for making it clear the important connection between choice and equity. And this may be information that's known, and I would ask that we not respond now. Maybe AJ can just send the information out, which is, in order to understand the equity piece of this, at least a part of it, if you go to slide 6, where this is the matrix of first choice, 52%, second choice, et cetera, I think it's important for people to understand how those choices are made. How do you get in the first bucket, the second, the third, and ultimately fifth choice? You know, and so to understand equity, somebody, including our parents, need to understand how these are made. Is it lottery? Is it
What an excellent
composite?
transition to the next slide.
Sorry?
So there are multiple buckets of work going on in the district. One of them is what's called demand modeling, which is looking specifically at some of that information. And so the equitable access vision is not just the choice work group. There's lots of different bodies of work going on across the district, and we're coordinating those efforts throughout. Demand modeling will be looking specifically at past year choice data and looking at what drove those choices and how the feeder patterns are aligning and things like that. And so they'll be bringing that to the board.
Could we just get an explanation of how it's been working over the last couple of years? How
That
do you
will-
end up in first,
Yep.
second, third, fourth, fifth?
Yes, that can definitely be included. Just, any other questions?
Dr. Bondima?
I have a quick question, and you might not be able to answer, maybe you can get it to us later. You were talking about doing some online applications and the process of technology. And I'm really curious to know, we've been talking about doing many programs, different things online. How do we know, or have you done any studies to show the percentage or the amount of students and families who are actually participating in doing or responding online? Because we all think that students are using their calculators or their computers or whatever, and that doesn't necessarily have to be true, because in some instances, they might have the phone, but they don't have, cannot make the payment, or they don't have the technology at home. And these kids, when we talk about low-income kids and families, these kids might lose out. They might lose out because they don't have the readiness, the availability, and they can't get to the library, or they can't get to where we say, oh, they can go to a library. So I was wondering, and you might not have it answered, because I'm talking about other programs as well. Do we have the information, the research to show who or what families are actually, how many are actually using technology to respond? Because this is how we're going to lose them, the few that could go to some of the top schools, and they missed that, they missed the application.
So I definitely think, Commissioner Bondima, that we can get you some of our data. I will say that nationally, what is being shown is that the holes in the support net are tightened. You're absolutely right that it doesn't include everybody, but we actually do know the behavior of young people with smartphones captures a significantly higher proportion of young people. Does it get everybody for the reasons you stated? No. But again, it's a step in the right direction. What I have charged staff with doing is saying, right now, we have a process with holes in it that literally you can step and fall through and never be recovered. The goal is, how do we tighten the holes, knowing that we're still going to have vulnerable young people, but we do know that families that are in transition, you actually are better off capturing them not through a computer, but through a smartphone, and we do know that. The question, though, that I think you're getting at is one that we know is work moving forward, and that is, how do we tighten the relationships, right? Because it's the relationships, not the technology or lack thereof, that actually is the most effective in shepherding young people through this process.
Just what you just said, I remember when we were just talking about the schools that are low-performing schools, that students that tend to transfer to low-performing schools. And it all I think it has something to do with economics or whatever we say, but we have to look at those schools and look at the students there and see why. The question is why.
I know Commissioner Cooper has a question. Commissioner Cannon wants to offer another part of an answer to your question.
The only thing I'd offer, Dr. Santelises answered it perfectly. We did in teaching and learning look at we looked at the survey data. We know we send home the survey all the time, and we wanted greater participation rates in the survey. And then to increase in going online, they did present out the percentages of students that are using phones and how much more kids have access to that, and how if we put things on their phone, we'll get a better return on our investment. So we can help pull that data for you to see.
I'm not going to carry this thing on and on and on, but I really would like to see a study by somebody to show that not all of those kids that we think that are using those telephones, that we're not capturing all of the kids, because I really believe that many of those kids who are in low-performing schools, not doing so well, I really believe that they don't have access to those phones. And maybe I'm wrong, but I would really have to see something to say that maybe I'm wrong, okay? I don't know.
It's a reasonable point. No, I mean, it's a good point, because you don't
So
know.
I'm just,
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes, I'm just curious, in your appendix, page 30, do we have any information as to the reason behind Mergenthaler getting 1.7 times more applicants than the next school?
We can get more details to you at a later time, once I go back into the data in more detail, but one perspective is also just seeing the large population size, and it's a big school, and also the offerings that they provide students. So what oftentimes attracts students to a high school is around their varsity sports or their extracurricular activities, which, as well as any kind of focused subject areas in careers. So I think that was one of the attributing factors for Mervo having such a large population of applicants.
Any other questions, comments? Commissioner Hassan?
Just a shout out to Mervo. I was there today, and if I was a visiting parent, I would want you walk in, they greet you, it's pleasant, the students, can I help you find something, ma'am? And they didn't know I was a commissioner. I was there just in my other job. But if I was visiting schools, I would say this is one place I'd want my kid to go. Many of the others are also very nice, but that was just a today revelation about why people might be interested more.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. To close the meeting, I would just want to highlight some upcoming meetings. There are 8 public meetings that you're welcome to join and attend over the next month. PCAB will be in this room at 6:30 on Thursday this week, 28th. CCAC will be in this room on Monday, October 9th at 6 p.m. The board will meet in executive session at 3 p.m. on October 10th, in public session at 5 p.m. on October 10th. Operations Committee on 10 a.m. on October 17th. Policy Committee at 3:30 on October 17th. Teaching and Learning at 9 a.m. on October 24th. And the PTA Council of Baltimore City at 6:30 on Wednesday, October 25th. And with that, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Commissioner Berkeley moves, second Commissioner Hassan, all in favor? And there's nobody opposed to adjourning the meeting. We are officially adjourned.
8:57.
I think that's the first thing. I'm telling her to do that.